A sword moves after striking its target, lifting leaves and petals in its path. The beast lets out a guttural roar, as it is mortally wounded by the sword. The man then stands still and prepares himself. As a giant bird approaches, he watches the giant bird approach with indifference, and with a vertical motion, he delivers a strike down the middle of the beast, which is swiftly annihilated. We see our hero surrounded by the bodies of the defeated monsters. A surviving demon comments, intrigued about how he managed to defeat all those monsters on his own. Then lying on the ground in his final moments, he recognizes his executioner as the immortal Raven. Raven Varth, the terrifying demon protecting warrior, shifts his disdainful gaze toward the monster below him. He swiftly raises his sword and prepares to finish the demon, then delivers the final blow with his sword without mercy. We then hear the sound of something gushing, and the demon's head hitting the ground. His last opponent defeated, Vart breathes in relief, feeling the satisfaction of a finished job. Amid the forest, the moon shines brighter, intensifying the aura that surrounds Vart, as he says he has finally arrived somewhere. Looking up at the sky relieved, he says there are only 15 days left until he regains his freedom. If he survives, there's a clear sky with a large moon illuminating the forest, and he finishes by saying, he will definitely leave that place after some time. Our hero arrives at the Demon Operations Forces camp and observes it from atop a hill. As he walks and analyzes the camp more closely, he notices drunk men having fun without a care, and people in deplorable states resting however they can. The Demon Special Forces, which Vart was a part of, was one of the worst punishments someone could receive in the kingdom, condemned to fight demons for eternity. Bart walks through the camp among drunkards and slaves, noting that this kind of person has nothing left to lose. After passing by two soldiers, one of them can be heard in the background saying, Bart had returned alone and might have killed his own subordinates. And another comment arises about him being royalty. He hears it and continues ahead unfazed, until he comes across a not-so-friendly man who says, well, look what we have here. The man continues and asks if he's going to ignore him again, and wants to know if he has something to say. Our hero makes a sound with his mouth showing annoyance. Then he smirks slightly and tells the man, it looks like he has a death wish. The man was about to ask what he meant by that, but took a knee to the gut before he could even try to speak. Bart positions himself offensively, quickly moving his hand to his sword. With a swift motion, he draws the blade and presses it against the other man's neck, putting him in serious danger. The edge of the blade makes a small cut on the man's neck, with just a subtle touch, and then one last fool remains, already realizing the situation as fear overtakes him. While trying to back away from Vart, Vart places his hand on the man's forehead, who can no longer contain his terror, and hurls his head violently against the ground, causing a loud crash and a crack in the earth, with his companion knocked out on the ground. The first man, still breathless and struggling, calls our hero a bastard to show he wasn't playing around. Vart drives his sword into the ground beside the man. Leaving him in panic, he crouches beside him and says, if he wants to die before being eaten by demons, he can always count on him. He walks away calmly while the man, still kneeling, threatens him, saying he will remember that moment. Our hero, a former member of the royal family who had fallen from grace, recalls how he was underestimated, and that his sentence would soon be over, almost reaching his quarters. He thinks those are the lies being told about him, lies that are completely accurate, because House Vart, even if not a house of great fame or prestige, truly did exist within the empire. But everything fell apart and they lost everything. Our hero remembers about 10 years ago, Vart was in chains witnessing something he couldn't believe. His family's estate was on fire. The sound of explosions and shattering glass, echoing as everything was consumed by the flames. The one responsible for it asked, were those idiots from House Vard, the ones who tried to rebel against the empire? Shouldn't the punishment for such a stupid act be death? Filled with rage and powerless, Vard shouted, you're wrong. As he stood, he was immediately restrained by two officers, but kept insisting that his family hadn't done such a thing. The nobleman then accused him of being a fool for not recognizing his own mistakes. Ellen raged by the injustice. He argued that it was all a misunderstanding, and that other houses had committed those acts, dragging House Var into the mess. The man grabbed his hair and forced his head up to make him look into his eyes. "Your father and mother have already been purified, so why don't we turn you into ashes along with their corpses?" the man asked, still clutching his hair, crying in fury, sweating, and with a look of indignation. Our hero listened as the man offered him another option. He came close to Vart's face and told him he would fight demons in the demon special forces. For 10 years now, on his knees staring in disbelief at the man, our hero heard that his life would be spared if he accepted the proposal. Seeing no other option, he overheard people murmuring about the demon special forces, whispers saying that's the worst unit in the Empire, full of criminals and savages, while others reflected on the fall of House Vart from royalty. Tormented by it all with an expression of reluctant acceptance, he asked, "If I fight demons for 10 years, will I be allowed to live?" The nobleman sarcastically replied, "If you manage to survive, then yes, you'll be free to do whatever you want." Now determined, he said, he understood and confidently declared that he would survive, so he could be free to rebuild House Wart. Still bound and on his knees, our hero watched what remained of his home and concluded, definitely back to the present. His hand touches the tent as he says, he's nearing the end of all these days of disgrace. Closing his eyes, he remembers how he had been left there with no training or experience. He recalls the difficult beginning against the demons and how, despite everything, he was still alive. His frightened but confident gaze showed how much he believed in his strength. He had arrived there as a child, and now after 10 years, he was a member of the demon hunting unit. As he steps into his tent, he says that the next large-scale demon extermination will be his final battle, and before entering, he feels closer than ever to being free to rebuild his house. Somewhere at that very moment, in the Ancona Forest territory of House Pendragon, a frightened man finds himself face to face with a dragon, adorned with a blue gemstone on its chest landing right before him. The dragon speaks directly to him, saying, "The time to fulfill our oath is drawing near," and the man, shaken, seems to understand what it means. A massive dragon breathes out a stream of fire from its mouth. They are being stronger than any type of demon, and perhaps even the strongest in the world. The Pendragon Duchy is the only house capable of using such creatures as their allies. A member of House Pendragon gently strokes the dragon, and their ability to tame them grants them great influence within the Empire. We return to our hero now just 13 days away from his amnesty. As he heads to the commander's tent, hearing unfamiliar voices, he lifts the entrance flap and steps inside, looking at the commander with some disdain as he says he's back. The commander chews on a piece of meat, while holding one of the 2 slaves beside him, and notes that once again, our hero returned alone, then asks for the mission report. Keeping his gaze steady, he says there is a large number of demons on the front line, and that the main troops wouldn't stand a chance of winning. In a sarcastic tone, the commander asks if he's saying he can't defeat them, and continues now with a more confident air. He tells our hero that they would lose if they were alone, and smiling he says, "But tomorrow it seems House Pendragon will help us." Wart listens closely as he hears that, in addition, they'll bring the strongest being with them. In the middle of the night, we see the tent of House Pendragon and its banners, and in that silence the commander's voice says, "They're going to bring a dragon." Our hero with a suspicious look asks, "What, so you're saying that such a terrifying creature will fight by our side?" The commander, calm and composed, understands it's hard to believe, but says it seems the Pendragons have been taming the white dragon for generations. For this task, Vart finds himself thinking about House Pendragon, the most influential family in the Empire, with the same bloodline as the Emperor. He still doubted it and thought it was just a legend, that someone could have a dragon as a familiar. Still lost in thought, Vart realizes he spent 10 years of his life fighting demons, has never seen a dragon, and wonders if Balti is going insane for believing that. And he remembers hearing that the previous head of the Pendragon family had died, and because of that their influence had diminished in recent years. After this analysis, our hero comes to this conclusion and says, "I can't trust that information." The commander then tells him, "You don't have the right to say no. This is an order, and besides, you won't need to go to the battlefield tomorrow." Vart, now with a confused look, asks what that's supposed to mean for him, and the commander tells him that with the power they'll have from the dragon, the task of annihilating the demons will fall on them, while our hero will be responsible for protecting the Pendragon brat. And Vart then says that that's enough for him, and the commander emphasizes that he must never leave the Pendragon boy's side. Apparently thoughtful about all this, our hero accepts the commander's order, but still somewhat reluctant. He says he'll do as he was told. Immediately, the commander tells him to go present himself to the future duke, that he's counting on him for the battlefield, and says, "Now let's continue our feast. Bring the booze." Our hero heads toward the Pendragon tent, hearing something coming from inside. That really was the Pendragon banner, and now our hero believes what he's seeing. He just doesn't understand why such a prestigious family is in such a shithole of a place. Vart remembers Baltai calling the Pendragon boy a brat, and his concern now is having to babysit a spoiled kid. But now none of that mattered. Not victory or defeat. What mattered was our hero making it out of this last battle alive. That's it, thinks Vart as he enters the tent, apologizing for the intrusion as he steps inside the young lord's quarters. Then a strange voice comes from deeper inside the tent and asks, "Who are you?" Our hero is startled by the voice he hears. In his thoughts now the question, what the hell kind of voice is that? It doesn't sound human. He calms down, kneels in reverence, and says, "I'm sorry for disturbing without prior notice," and asks, "Am I speaking with the young lord of House Pendragon?" The voice at the back of the tent answers, "Certainly, I am a Pendragon. Now state your name and intentions." Still bowing, Vart introduces himself as the commander of the 12th Squadron, and says he will be responsible for the young lord's safety on the battlefield. The voice then replies that it won't be necessary, and that he should rest to be ready for battle. Vart remains silent, standing there thinking about something. The voice then asks him, "Is there something else you want to say?" And our hero then asks if His Excellency brought the dragon, that thanks to its firepower, it would be essential for the upcoming battle. The strange voice tells him to be calm, that the dragon will be there to help. To please Leek, now seeming more relieved, Vart understands the request and silently exits the Pendragon tent. As he leaves, he wonders if that was really a child's voice. It was too calm. And why a member of the ducal family would be there alone. He had never heard of anything like that. One last glance back, thinking that it didn't matter. After all, he wouldn't have to see him again after the battle. Morning arrives, and the special forces are gathered in front of the Pendragon tent, awaiting the announcement that will be made by the commander, until Balti shouts, "The young Lord Pendragon will now make his appearance." And amid the anticipation, with something about to happen, Vart and Balti in front of the tent remain in silence. Balti starts to get nervous, and Vart wonders where the young lord is. Balti prepares to call Pendragon again, until he is interrupted by a devastating crash that destroys the tent, and causes a massive shock wave around them, trying to see through the blast wave. Vart thinks, what the hell? As the dust from the explosion begins to settle, a blue eye and white scaled skin can be seen emerging through the haze. Vart stares in disbelief, wondering if that's really what he's seeing. And yes, it truly is. A white dragon flapping its wings and lifting off the ground. The dragon causes even more commotion, leaving Balda and Vard in awe. It was a true white dragon, magnificent and powerful. And our hero was clearly in disbelief at what his eyes were witnessing. Suddenly a red cape and blonde hair appeared in front of the dragon, someone who was clearly the young Lord Pendragon, with the visor of their white helmet lowered. Barely any of their face could be seen. Our hero watched the Lord attentively, with a hand on the visor just about to reveal their face. The Lord finally introduces themselves as Ellen Pendragon. Looking around at everyone still surrounded by dust, Ellen finally reveals her face and says, "So without further delay, let's begin the subjugation of the demons." According to the demon operational forces, the large-scale demon subjugation would have the support of House Pendragon, with the help of the White Pendragon dragon. On the battlefield in the Lufton Prairie, demons charge in for the attack. Our hero explains to the young lord that he's not used to fighting, while protecting someone else. With 3 demons ahead, our hero stands guard for the young lord, asking her not to go doing whatever she wants. Vart draws his sword, and thinks that while the dragon fights the demons in the air, he'll take care of things on the ground. With a determined look, he grips his sword and taunts the demons ahead, saying, "Come at me, mutt." The demons rush at him 2 at once, But our hero sings unfazed as he leaps into battle. With a single move, he gracefully executes both demons in a double strike. With his two swords, his blade moves as he hears the dragon soaring above his head. Flying gracefully through the sky, the dragon spreads its wings and turns toward the battlefield, a blast of blue flames condensing in its mouth. With one shot, it takes down 5 enemies at once, while many others on the ground had already perished. Against the strongest being all, they are shot down one by one, falling from the sky consumed by the dragon's blue fire. The dragon flies through the air, effortlessly striking down its enemies like flies. It is truly exceptional on the ground. Vart watches it all, seeing how easily the dragon handles everything, and mutters in awe that it's terrifying. Standing beside Ellen, Vart watches the massacre unfold and thinks, who would have thought the white dragon really existed? He turns his head toward her and says, "It doesn't matter what kind of demon it is. None can match a dragon." It was a saying he'd heard, but now it seemed real. The dragon hovers in the sky as the defeated demons burn on the ground, and Vart says still, that single dragon managed to defeat most of them. Our hero feels relieved, thinking the battle has been easy so far. Thanks to the dragon, he felt lucky that his final fight hadn't brought complications yet. The dragon lands near Ellen and she watches it closely, worried. Our hero asks if Ellen and the dragon are hurt, and she replies that they're fine, telling him not to worry about them, appearing unconcerned. Vart says the battle will soon be over until more of them appear. Winged demons suddenly emerge, ready to attack. A large number spiral above their heads in the sky, preparing to dive in. Bart observes carefully and says shit. The last ones left, he quickly turns to the Lord in desperation, asking her to give the order for the dragon to strike. The dragon crouches and moves closer, locking eyes with Ellen, who stares back, both calm and unbothered. Ellen looks at the dragon without saying a word, only through her gaze, and both close their eyes. At that moment, the demons charge in with a fierce, unified assault. Vart positions himself near Ellen, realizing there are more demons alive than it initially seemed, and prays that the dragon simply does its job. The dragon turns to the sky, alert, but then closes its eyes again, as if waiting for something. The demons close in around it, yet the dragon remains still, eyes shut, and our hero watches. Vart, distressed, begins to wonder what is happening, and doesn't understand why the dragon isn't reacting. The demons begin to attack the dragon, using their claws to tear deep wounds into its body. Bart panics and yells, asking, "Why aren't you fighting back?" Ellen seems to know something and just stands there accepting it, until our hero, not believing what he's seeing, grabs her by the armor and demands to know what the hell they're doing. While Vardy is holding Ellen, trying to understand the situation, an explosion occurs where the dragon was. Vart, confused, looks at what happened, and sees more demons emerging from the explosion. They all leap into the attack, leaving no chance for our hero, who positions himself in front of Ellen, still in disbelief at the number of demons still alive. Ellen and Vart, both surrounded in the middle of the enemy, have no chance or hope of triumphing against so many foes. Here we reflect. Dragons are truly the most powerful beings in existence. It doesn't matter what kind of demon it is. There's no match for a dragon. We go back to the moment when our hero felt lucky to have the dragon by their side, because up to that point the battle had been too easy. Now we remember the moment when he pleaded with the dragon to finish off the remaining demons. He believed that having a dragon on his side meant victory would be easy, and he wouldn't have to worry. Now he feels guilty for letting his guard down and believing that, breathing heavily, worn out, feeling crushed, and like a fool for thinking it was all just luck. That's how he feels as he looks at the dragon, now beaten down by demons and many of his companions, once again dead in battle. With an ironic smile, blood covering his face, he still has the strength to say, "What a mess on the battlefield." Demons still standing, and not a single sign of human life could be seen. 3 goblin-like demons confidently approach our hero. They attack while he, kneeling, no longer has the strength to fight. He grinds his teeth and strikes them down in one blow, giving them no chance to defend. He's still not dead, not defeated. He's still there, and until his final breath, he will keep fighting. Our hero seems exhausted and badly wounded, clearly bleeding heavily from a severe injury. He rises and leans on his sword, feeling the wound that seems terribly serious. He starts thinking, "I have no strength left and I've got a deep wound. If I fall now, I won't get back up." He turns to the dragon lying beaten in front of him, looks directly at it and says, "We're both such idiots with heavy steps." He moves in front of the dragon, looks at it and asks White Dragon, "Are you really dead?" With a spike driven into its neck and Ellen slumped beneath, Vart looks carefully at the creature. Seemingly lifeless, Ellen coughs and stirs. To Vart's surprise, who thought she was already dead, he stares at her without saying a word. She opens her eyes and sees our hero standing in front of her, still alive, still on his feet. He breathes heavily and Vart asks, "So you're still alive, our hero?" Looking for answers, grabs her armor again and says, "Before we die, answer me one thing." He desperately wants to understand what happened, why the dragon stopped its attack halfway through. He remembers the exchange of glances between them, and that Ellen seemed to have given an order with just a signal. The young lord doesn't respond, just looks at Vart, who is outraged and wants to know what happened. Angrily he pulls her and shouts, "We would have won if the dragon hadn't stopped attacking. Why did you do that? Answer me." At that moment, something hits him from behind. A fatal blow, he doesn't know what or who it was. He realizes this is how it's going to end. As he falls to the ground, his eyes are still filled with disbelief at how everything is ending. "Though your heart was pierced, you did not die. You really lived up to your name, didn't you, the immortal?" said a familiar voice. "Raven Vart," says Baltai, the one responsible for the cowardly strike to our hero's back. He still looks at Baltai with a gaze of fury, unable to even fully speak. Balti, with a certain tone of relief and smiling, says it's finally over. Then he gives the command for the army to attack. Several knights appear on the battlefield and charge into the fight. The flag, the Imperial Army's banner, was now raised on the battlefield. Vart looks and doesn't understand why Balte is leading the Imperial Army. Nothing made sense to him anymore. Balte, seeing his confusion, tells him not to be surprised. He places the axe against the young lord's neck, saying that all of this had been planned from the start, preparing to execute Ellen. He says that some fools had refused to give up. Ellen, looking as if she already knew everything, simply closes her eyes and accepts her end, while Balti feels fulfilled in completing his goal. A swift slicing sound and we see Ellen's head flying in front of Vault, who still doesn't quite understand what's happening. The head falls beside him as he stares, unsure of what to do. His despair is now clearly written all over his face. There was no way out, Baltai says. That Ellen's death had been decided a long time ago. Along with our heroes, Baltai kicks Vault to the ground and pins him down with a foot on his back. "So close, wasn't it, Raven?" asks Baltai as our hero lies there with no strength left to resist. "Just a bit more and you would have gained your freedom." He finishes. He grabs him by the hair and looks into his eyes, saying, "It was pretty painful, wasn't it? Your physical abilities are extraordinary. Your healing ability is unnatural," says Balti, surprising Vault, who didn't know the commander was aware of that information. Vault realizes then that this wasn't a secret to Balti at all. He had only pretended not to know until now. Still, cutting off his head wouldn't help either. And Baltai concludes, "What a shame that you'll die here, without ever achieving your long-dreamed freedom." Vault begins to remember with sorrow everything he had planned to do once he was finally free. His only goal was to be free again, to rebuild his house after 10 years of fighting. Yet it now seemed like everything would end here. He pauses for a moment and remembers how much this resembled the time his family was accused of treason. The weak and powerless are the ones who must endure such humiliations, the ones who have to die in places like this, even when they're so close. Baltai raises our hero's head with the axe, saying, "Raven, let me tell you a little secret." Baltai then says the rebellion that the Vault family had to deal with for the past 10 years. Your entry into the demon special forces and both your deaths. Everything was orchestrated. With a shocked expression, Vault can't believe what he's hearing, lifting his head in disbelief. Immediately Baltai kicks him back down and says, "The only thing we didn't expect was for the dragon to be so weak." Preparing for the final blow, Baltai says, "But it was all part of someone's plan." As he swings his axe swiftly, Baltai lets out one last shout, "See you, little crow." Our hero still looks at his executioner in his final moment of life. As the axe nears his neck, the axe strikes him cleanly, sending his head flying a great distance. The dragon, with stakes in its body, still motionless, finally opens its eyes. It begins removing the stakes from its body, while staring at the two corpses on the ground. There in front of it lay the heads of Ellen Pendragon and Raven Vault. It looked on in sorrow, then a voice says, "All conditions have been fulfilled." A black shadow begins to rise from the bodies lying on the ground, heading toward a black hole in the sky. Spreading its wings, the dragon hovers above the ground, between the hole in the sky and the bodies below. Meanwhile, the life of 1,000 humans, the life of 1,000 demons, the life of a royal, the life of a dragon, and the meeting of the sun and the moon. The dragon seems to prepare for something and then says, "I will fulfill the oath now." Suddenly a bright light glows from the middle of its horns, and as if by magic the heads of Ellen and Raven, which had been there, disappear. The dragon rises, standing on its hind legs, looking toward the moon as it spreads, its wings wounded and with its body still deteriorating. It speaks what seem to be its final words. "Everything will be in your hands now." Its head disconnects from its neck as the moon shines above, and it utters its last word. Dragon Knight, the white dragon, before perishing, still says, "With the meeting of the sun and moon, I will fulfill our oath. Everything will now be in your hands." Dragon Knight, our hero, seems to be in the depths of a river or lake, and starts to wonder if he's dead or not. He feels a sensation of something tearing inside him, the same sensation he feels when regenerating, which meant he was still alive. As he slowly opens his eyes, he sees someone dressed as a maid and wonders where he is. He finds it strange, and notices that there seems to be something on his wrist. He quickly gets up from the bed, and the maid looks startled to see him awake. With wide eyes she screams, "Young master," clearly terrified. The woman runs off shouting, "This is terrible, someone please." The young master, our hero, looked confused, and he didn't seem to be in his usual body either. He slowly gets out of bed thinking, "What an extravagant room, I've never seen anything like this before," and asks himself, "Where the hell am I?" The maid returns with someone else, apparently a butler, and he shouts, "Young master, you finally awaken." Everyone stands there staring at the young master, seemingly shocked by his awakening. Then the butler, with a joyful and emotional expression, says, "Young master, you're awake. You finally." He approaches him with great respect and concern and asks, "Are you all right? Do you remember me?" Our hero doesn't understand anything that's going on and asks, "Who are you calling young master me?" The worried butler immediately responds, "That's right, this is Conrad, the castle of House Pendragon." And we can see how grand and beautiful the castle is. Our hero, distressed and still unsure of what's happening, then hears the butler say, "And you are Master Aaron Pendragon." A mixture of horror and surprise takes over our hero as he reacts, saying, "What? I'm Aaron Pendragon." Quickly runs over to a basin full of water, looks at his reflection and can't believe what he's seeing. As he wonders, "Young master." The maid then steps forward and says, "Maybe you don't remember your appearance, Lindy." The young master is confused from just waking up. "Don't push him too hard," says the butler, placing a hand on Lindy's shoulder. The butler adds, "It's to be expected after he's been unconscious for 3 years." And she is shocked that 3 years have passed. Our hero, standing before the water basin, begins to think he was sure he had been killed that day. And he starts to wonder, "Since I'm semi-immortal, why, instead of just reviving, did I become a Pendragon?" The doors to the room suddenly burst open and a woman enters shouting, "Aaron, my son." We then see it's Aaron's mother, who seems relieved, joyful, but still in disbelief, and she asks, "You're awake?" "Everyone in the room," says Lady Helene, and our hero wonders, thinking, "Who is it this time?" She immediately rushes to the bed where our hero is, saying, "Aaron, you're really awake." Our hero watches closely as Lady Helene approaches, but strangely, she passes through the body of the lady who's standing there. He then becomes truly frightened and asks himself, Who is that?" The older woman notices Vault's shock at her presence, and gestures no with her finger. Phelan rushes to our hero and hugs him, asking, "Thank God, Aaron. Do you remember me? I'm your mother." He can only think that this must be a dream. He looks uncertainly at the young lady nearby. As she waves her hand to tell him not to worry about her, she points to the other side, and he realizes she wants him to look outside. Clearly stunned, he says, "That's," as his wings spread, and he clings to the top of one of the castle's towers. The white dragon was there, unharmed, alive, as if nothing had ever happened. Our hero stares at the dragon and, not knowing why, asks himself, "Soul Drake." The dragon quickly becomes alert, and then visibly furious about something. He charges toward Aaron's room, destroying part of the structure, including windows and walls, frightening everyone inside, clings to the edge of the room, and seems furious at Aaron for some reason. Our hero then wonders Soul Drake, why do I know the name of this white dragon? No, regardless, he had already died with Aaron, and he remembers, when he stood before the bodies of Aaron and the dragon. On the battlefield our hero wondered. He revived? No. Maybe he was still alive in that state. I don't understand anything that's going on. Soul Drake, shouts Helene. She throws herself between our hero and the dragon and yells, I won't allow you to hurt my son anymore. The dragon pauses for a moment and senses something. He looks at Aaron's mother, and sees the older woman that our hero also saw. The lady then walks toward the dragon with her hand outstretched. She approaches without any fear and the dragon seems to recognize her. Our hero, concerned for her safety, yells, step back, and Helene, confused, asks Aaron. The lady pets the dragon as if it were her pet, and the dragon responds as if she were its owner. He throws a wink at our hero and he's startled, has no idea what's going on. Helene approaches our hero and asks Aaron, what's wrong? It's dangerous to stand like that. Please go sit down. Vault suddenly realizes something and wonders, that lady, am I really the only one who can see her? That lady seems very close to the dragon. She pets it and smiles while it responds with a loving gaze. Then it closes its eyes and Vaulty realizes it's about to leave, almost as if obeying a command from her, rather than acting of its own will. Takes off, and the lady waves goodbye to what is clearly her best friend. She then turns to our hero, gives him a gentle smile, and slowly begins to vanish as if everything were a magic trick. Now understanding a bit more, Vault thinks to himself she disappeared. Lady Helene is relieved that the dragon has left, and a worried butler approaches her to ask if she's alright. She replies that she is, but she's concerned about someone else. That someone was Aaron, her only son, and she asks him how he's feeling. He's alright, but his mind is far away trying to figure out what's really going on. Our hero reflects on everything happening. The castle, the people around him, the dragon's name that he somehow knows. It really seemed like he had become Aaron. His mother, quickly concerned with the silence, asks again Aaron, and he responds as naturally as possible. I'm fine, Mom. And she lets out a brief sigh of relief, while Elaine and the butler chat. Vault thinks in the background, there's no point in staying confused. I need to gather information to understand all this. As he ties his hair and looks around, he thinks, and since I'm not Aaron, I need to make sure I'm not found out. So let's begin the information gathering. Demon Special Forces, the trash of society with no human rights or hope of survival, explains Raven, sitting atop the defeated monsters with an empty gaze. Our hero says, but I survived 10 years, improving my skills and becoming a warrior, unmatched among humans and demons. He still remembers the betrayal he suffered in his final battle, in the Lawton Prairies, the one where he was finally supposed to be freed, one he should have lost. Looking at his new body, he realizes he has been reborn in the body of the young Pendragon. 7 years in the past, and recalls the harsh days of pain and filth. Lindsay awkwardly tries to feed her young master, with a spoonful of food. Raven now, as Aaron is uncomfortable with what's happening. The maid keeps trying to feed her bedridden master, as if he were a child, making our hero feel embarrassed. Sighing, Raven says, he can eat by himself, but Lindsay replies, no, you can't be quiet, doctor's orders. Lindsay, the maid, always in charge of Aaron's daily needs before everything happened, asks once again for him to open his mouth and eat. Raven concludes she's overly protective to be treating me like this. Opening his mouth, our hero understands that since he has turned into the young lord, he'll have to accept this situation, even if it's incredibly embarrassing. At last the meal ends. Lindsay thanks him for his effort and quickly informs, while the medicine is being prepared, I'll help you get dressed. As he gets out of bed, Raven insists that it's not necessary and that he can do it on his own. Our hero continues while fixing his hair. I'm just gonna wash my face. Could you bring me my clothes and a ribbon for my hair? But Lindsay is utterly shocked. She rushes over to Raven, startling him as she yells, young master, worried. The maid says you're not supposed to be walking yet. You'll hurt yourself, she adds, making our hero uncomfortable. Hurriedly, Lindsay guides our hero back to the bed, informing him that she'll take care of his clothes and hair. Sensing her anxiety as she begs Raven to rest, he says he understands and asks her to calm down. Small stool is placed on the floor and he is directed to sit on. Lindsay begins tending to our hero, who only wanted to be left alone, while having his hair done. Raiden keeps thinking he had just arrived in this place. Now dressed in white noble garments, he finishes his thought, but in this life, everyone does everything for me. This situation frustrates our hero, as he doesn't know how to deal with it. Lindsay grows concerned and asks if he's troubled, but Raven replies it's nothing. Relieved, the maid asks if he needs anything else, and says to just call her if he does, but is promptly dismissed before she finishes her sentence. A voice calls the young master brother, and that catches him completely by surprise. From the door, a young lady appears, followed by a little girl in a pink dress holding a stuffed bunny. The young woman with blue eyes and golden hair smiles in relief upon seeing Raven. A child who looks just like the young woman but with very short hair watches silently. Lindsay is surprised by both of them, calling them Lady Erin and Lady Mia. But our hero wonders, why do these things always happen at the worst times? Without saying a word, the younger girl starts running toward Raven, surprising her sister who calls her back. Mia finally reaches our hero and hugs his leg, which catches him off guard. She looks up at her brother with hopeful eyes. Raven ends up showing a slightly awkward smile, not knowing how to deal with the situation. Erin approaches, apologizing and asks if her brother is able to walk again. Our hero replies yes, as long as it's just walking. Lindsay quickly pulls a chair for her lady to sit, but Mia is already sitting in her brother's lap. The middle sister asks, worried if they are interrupting. Forcing a smile, Raven replies no, it's alright. That cheers Erin, who starts talking about how happy they are, how the flowers in the garden are blooming, and invites her brother to see them when he's able to walk. As the young noblewoman excitedly talks about flowers and plants, our hero begins to feel tired of the situation. Raven understands that since he pretended to have lost his memories, it has helped him gather information, but complains that his sister won't stop talking this way. He finally begins to understand Erin, who was a chaotic person, someone who preferred art and books over the sword, gardening instead of combat, the coward who locked himself in his room to avoid social contact. His skills with the sword and in combat were terrible, and because of that rumors spread among the nobles in secret. The successor to the duchy became a joke among the noble houses. Varden understands now, and isn't surprised by the downfall of House Pendragon. Looking at himself, our hero thinks, now I have a 17-year-old body. 10 years before we met on the battlefield at 14, he collapsed and stayed unconscious for a long time, only waking up 3 years later. That makes him think there's a reason for everything that's happening. The reason no longer matters. What matters is that he's still alive, that he came back in time, and now has a second chance to redo everything. The moment he was sent to the demon special forces and lost the honor of his family, now he's been given a second chance. With a serious look, our hero begins to plan his first steps, starting with what Balti had said about the disgrace and rebellion of Raiden's family, his being sent to that infernal group and his downfall. All of it had been planned. To truly understand everything, our hero decides to start fighting again, whether as Erin or Vard. Erin is still talking until she mentions a name, Lady Luna, but she notices her brother isn't paying attention, and asks if he's even listening, which surprises him, but he tells her to continue happy. The middle sister continues speaking. Lady Luna is coming to see you today. Confused, our hero asks, who is Lady Luna? Erin apologizes, remembering that her brother's memories haven't returned yet. Calmly she explains, she's part of the Pendragon cavalry, and the adopted daughter of Count Sarid. Smiling since the subject is romantic, she reveals more about Lady Luna. Vader is shocked to hear that this lady is his fiancée. Sweating nervously at the news, our hero can only mutter ha. A group of mounted knights escorts a carriage along a road. One of the knights informs, someone inside the carriage will be arriving at Castle Conrad shortly. Please wait just a little longer. This person is Lady Luna. a woman with a serious expression and impeccable posture. The horses continue their march alongside the carriage. On the road, knight keeps speaking with his lady and says, "After 3 years you'll finally meet your fiancé again." Curious, he asks how Lady Luna feels at this moment. He is Joseph Bryden, chief knight of Count Sarad's house. She sighs at the topic but immediately replies bluntly, "Why should I answer someone like, you don't concern yourself with me. Just do your job." Lady Luna continues. This subject clearly tires her. Her memory of Aaron is of a weak and ambiguous man. Luna reflects on the marriage. "Even if I see him, he's always hiding and hard to talk to. But I accepted the engagement for the sake of my family. But it will all end today." She continues in her thoughts. "Because her father agreed to end the engagement. That's due to the fallen power of House Pendragon, which no longer brings any benefit. From the beginning, Lady Luna never felt comfortable marrying someone so weak. The end of the engagement brings her relief and a soft smile of happiness." Joseph continues the conversation, wondering if Aaron has grown, even though the visit is to announce the termination of the engagement. Lady Luna responds sternly that she'll do the talking, and that her knight only needs to stay quiet and not cause trouble. This makes the knight chuckle. He says that whether the young lord wakes up or not, the glory of House Pendragon will never be restored. Joseph continues cheerfully, "The young master failed to form a pact with a dragon. I'm sure the house will only fall into decline from now on." He arrogantly points to himself and begins singing his own praises for earning more glory on his own than the Pendragons, especially since one of them doesn't have a dragon. Lady Luna scolded her knight. She rebukes him for being unpleasant and tells him to step back. Joseph apologizes politely for the rudeness and complies. Lady Luna wonders, is there a respectable man in either house, Pendragon or Sarad, as she looks out the window, clearly tired of the subject. She remarks that the men of both houses are either weak or arrogant. Nearing Castle Conrad, she concludes by saying that she doesn't like either type. In the castle's entrance hall, Lady Luna is received by the Pendragon family with a polite bow. Aaron's fiancé greets the host family. Then, with a cordial smile, she says it's been quite a while. Raven, unlike his sisters and mother, is not particularly impressed by his fiancé's manners and presentation. Aaron, excited by the visit, hugs Luna and says she's more beautiful than ever and truly lovely. While the guest repeats that it's been a long time, Lady Elaine asks Aaron to escort his fiancée to her room, which makes him uncomfortable, noticing her fiancé's unease and the help from his mother. Lady Luna continues to hold the same opinion, that he's pathetic, now resigned to what he must do. Raven moves forward and looks at his fiancée. Our hero speaks a bit bluntly, directly to Lady Luna. "It's been a while, hasn't it? I'll take you to your room. Follow me." This genuinely surprises her. Raven keeps the conversation going, this time asking if it's okay for the knight to stay in a separate room. With no answer from his fiancée, he asks if she's listening. Snapping her out of it, Lady Luna apologizes and responds that there's no problem with the knight staying in a different room. This makes Raven recall what his sister said about his fiancé's calm and quiet personality. As he guides her through the halls, he understands that her attitude is that of someone marrying for convenience. Lindsay opens the door to one of the rooms and asks them both to enter. They all walk into the room, as Lady Luna politely asks for permission. The maid asks if they would like some tea, but Raiden leaves that decision to Lady Luna, which surprises her, still speaking bluntly. He informs her she can sit anywhere she likes. This leaves her confused, not understanding what's going on. Lady Luna wonders, how can someone who couldn't even look others in the eye now speak to maids and to me? So naturally surprised, she questions his change and whether he still remembers her. Given his memory loss, Raven, unconcerned with manners, sits in a chair and informs her he remembers nothing. As she sits across from her fiancé, Lady Luna understands that he lost his memory, but is surprised by his change in personality. Even so, the change made him a better man compared to his old self. These thoughts make her blush as she reflects that, with this new personality, perhaps House Pendragon could regain some glory. Raven only watches her seriously, without interest observing her. Makes him think that it would be bad to create trouble with Sarah, without knowing the diplomatic details. And he realizes his fiancée is hiding something. Smiling, he decides to ask questions. He comments on the personality change everyone has noticed, and says that if it displeases her, They could discuss ending the engagement with the Duke. Without thinking twice, Lady Luna yells no. Realizing how improper that was, she immediately apologizes. What am I doing? The decision has already been made, and I'm only here to announce. The noble young woman think. Even with the personality change, there's no way to restore House Pendragon, thinks Lady Sarah as they study each other. Lady Luna bites her lip to gather the courage to break the news. Just as she finally tries to speak, Lindsay interrupts the conversation. The maid apologizes for returning before the tea was ready. Our hero asks if there's a problem, and is told that his mother is calling him to the audience hall, along with his fiancée not understanding. He asks why. Lindsay begins to explain that it's about Joseph. There was a minor commotion, which surprised Lady Luna. Raven looks at his fiancée, clearly unhappy even though he had told her not to cause trouble. Her knight disobeyed at the worst possible time, leaving Lady Sarah furious. Our hero questions his fiancée. You're making that face like you're hiding something. You didn't come here today with some kind of scheme, did you? Lady Luna is unable to answer the question, but admits to having missed the chance to tell the truth, even if she was supposed to dislike her fiancé. With no answer, Raven looks away. I'll listen to what you have to say later. Let's go see your knight first, says our hero as he leaves the room. Lady Luna still doesn't understand what happened to her fiancé to make him change so much, but she knows she has to stop Sir Braden now. She follows Raven saying yes, let's do that. In the throne room, Joseph stands before Lady Elaine. Melbourne raises his voice in surprise at the news of the engagement being cancelled, and asks if this is truly what Count Serrat wants. Sir Breton states that the reason for the visit is to inform young Master Pendragon. Lady Elaine appears unsettled by the subject. However, she repeats her question about the engagement cancellation, and asks if they are ready to take responsibility for the consequences and the reasons behind the decision. Joseph replies that they are willing, and as an apology Count Serrat will offer gold and crystal mines on the edge of their territory, along with 2 lumber mills in Brynard to the Pendragons. This surprises both the butler and Lady Elaine. Melbourne stammers, not understanding what, with a bow but an unpleasant expression. Joseph asks if they would like to propose something else, since they don't seem satisfied. Both the butler and Lady Elaine are irritated by the insult from the knight. The matriarch is torn between accepting due to their internal troubles and risking their honor if they do, preferring to defend their honor. She refuses the proposal to end the engagement. Joseph continues now with a more threatening tone. Are you sure? This might be your last chance to set everything back on track. Clearly irritating Lady Elaine even more. A voice says to wait, surprising both the matriarch and the butler. As the Pendragon knights kneel, our hero observes the situation from the hall's entrance. He appears with a serious expression with Lady Lunette just behind him. His arrival excites Lady Elaine and Melbourne. Joseph lights up upon seeing Raven, seeing it as his chance to prove himself before his lady. The young Pendragon sits on the throne beside his mother. At once Sir Breton begins to speak politely and respectfully. However, he is immediately cut off by Raven, who rudely asks, "Who are you?" surprising the knight, who freezes for a few seconds. Our hero explains that due to memory loss, he doesn't remember Joseph. Sir Breton assumes that despite the personality change, he's still a fool and decides to assert their status difference. He immediately begins introducing himself, but is cut off again, this time told to leave. Once more stunned, he's left speechless. Raven waves his hand like he's dismissing a dog, saying, "I'm not interested. You're just a knight and I want you gone." Joseph asks if such treatment isn't extremely rude for someone in his position. But the young noble answers with authority, "You're the one being rude by coming to our castle. Get out of my sight, mere knight. Don't make me repeat myself," says Raven, intimidating Joseph. Intimidation visibly shakes Sir Breton. Lady Luna sighs as she sees her knight intimidated. Her attention shifts to Raven when she hears him say, "So it seems you were discussing the cancellation," says our hero with a finger. He gestures for Lady Sarah to speak directly. Overwhelmed by how things are unfolding, Lady Luna wonders, "What should I do?" Raven asks if he heard correctly, that they want to cancel the engagement in exchange for gold, crystal mines and lumber mills. Without a second thought, he accepts the deal, saying they're even now. This shocks Lady Luna, Lady Elaine and Melbourne. His mother is especially surprised. not knowing where her son even learned the phrase "we're even." But the butler grows worried and asks our hero to reconsider, since this decision will impact the Pendragon family. Raven confidently states, "There are many things that need to be done for this house to become powerful again, and now is not the time to worry about a mere engagement." He affirms that even if they tried something, the Count wouldn't change his mind and asks Lady Luna if he's wrong. Lady Serot is left surprised and speechless. Knowing she should have said she couldn't marry someone like him, she still can't bring herself to admit that she had fallen in love with our hero. Raven notices that Lady Luna is struggling to respond. He quickly says, "Your opinion doesn't matter to the Serots. You don't need to answer me. I accept the cancellation." Lady Serod once again is left without words. Raven asks his mother if she's alright with the decision. Lady Eileen sighs and says yes, and that her son is the head of House Pendragon, and for that reason she trusts him. Seeing his decision approved, he smiles at his mother as the head of the family. He declares marriage between Aaron Pendragon and Luna Starr is officially cancelled. The Starred show signs of sadness through Lady Luna. While Joseph feels anger, the Pendragons are happy and relieved. Footsteps echo through a hallway in the castle. Raven is followed by the maid, while feeling irritated by having to think about so many things, even such a tedious marriage. Given their financial situation, trading marriage for resources was valuable, especially the crystal mines that could attract powerful mages. Raven thinks a large painting of the woman who spoke to Soldrake hangs in the hallway. Our hero notices the painting. He remembers the strange lady beside the white dragon. Raven asks who the person in the portrait is, and Lindsay replies that's the elder sister of Duke Klein. Pendragon's father, the woman in the painting, is named Acha Pendragon. Our hero repeats the name as he observes the painting. A voice says, "I noticed you said my name." Young Pendragon surprised. Our hero turns around at TS, stands with her back to the large window looking at Raven. Finally saying something, the lady speaks. "There's something I'd like to ask you. Let's have a little talk inside a room." Raven asks what the lady wants. Atia smiles and says she's a ghost, and being called by name is a prerequisite for speaking to the living. She's also Aaron's great-aunt and comes off as cheerful and playful. "After 10 years of fighting demons, this is the first time I've talked to a ghost. And ever since I woke up in this new body, there's been one problem after another." Raven complains. Atia decides to get straight to the point. She finally turns serious and asks, "Who the hell are you? You're not the real Aaron Pendragon. Are you?" That question takes our hero by surprise. It makes Asia laugh a bit. She wasn't expecting Raven's reaction. In the end, she apologizes for sounding threatening. She just always wanted to say that, but reveals that she already knew. So Drake had told her that the young Pendragon was no longer who he used to be. Relieved, Raven understands and asks if she knows how to speak with dragons. And what happened? ATS says she doesn't, but asks for the full story, and how he became Aaron. Our hero hesitates but thinks, since she's a ghost and only I can see her, I guess there's no problem telling her. Raven agrees to tell her what he knows, but warns her, "I don't know if you'll believe it, but I'll tell you anyway. In July of the imperial calendar, Aaron and I were defeated in battle in the Lobton Prairie." Raven says he continues, "At least that's what I thought, but then I woke up like this. As for returning to the past as Aaron, I want to figure that out too." Atias says she gets the gist, though still a bit confused, which makes our hero ask if she truly believes him. Believing or not won't change what happened. And Soldrake said, "You're not Aaron." Lady Pendragon answers. She goes on to reveal that there's a good chance that during the battle that wasn't the real young Pendragon. Raven doesn't understand and asks for more details. Audia explains that for generations, successors of the family have made pacts with Soldrake, and asks if he's ever heard about the importance of opening the mausoleum, a place that holds the souls of the ancestors, and the fate of the house, the power of ancestors, the spirits of the dragon's kin, and the family's secret magic, a source of power that brings prosperity if open, but brings the house's decline if it remains closed. That's why it must be opened. The gates can only be opened by a successor who surpasses the dragon's authority and forms a pact with it. Only one chance is given per generation. ACHA reveals that even her brother Klein and his predecessor Gorge struggled Aaron, Being the weakest ended up being defeated by Soldrake, who left him unconscious. A defeated successor rarely wakes up again, and the great dragon will only follow someone who surpasses its authority. Acha concludes by saying, "So Eren meeting you alongside the white dragon during the war. That's impossible." Once again, our hero is shocked by this information. Cheerfully, the lady steps closer and says, "But that's not the point," which makes Raven ask what she means by that. Acha replies excitedly, "The most important thing now is that Eren has awakened with a different soul in his body." But our hero doesn't seem to understand. The body belongs to the Pendragon, but the soul does not, and that gives a new chance to form a pact. Aisha says and suggests, "There aren't enough soldiers right now. So go to the icon of a forest where there's a lair of evil monsters." She requests that the monsters be defeated until Raven reaches the mausoleum, in the densest part of the forest, where he must show his power to the dragon and form a pact with it. As the true successor of the Pendragon, "Please open the gates of the mausoleum." Idia pleads. The lady issues a challenge to Raven, asking if he has what it takes. Our hero smiles confidently. He accepts, saying very well, which surprises Ho with his confidence. There's no reason to refuse since this will help everyone. He's already used to exterminating demons. Raven comments that regaining the family's influence will be great, and that he'll use every opportunity to achieve his goals. Hishia is intrigued by this, seeing that our hero is a determined man, who doesn't hesitate to get what he wants. Promising not to complain or interfere with Raven's goals, the lady simply wishes the best for House Pendragon. Our hero thanks her for that with a clear direction. It's necessary to take command of the vassals, rebuild his reputation, and reclaim military leadership. Ida says there are supporters of the family, but there are also antagonists, due to the fall and the weakness of its leader, and she suggests he identify the loyal vassals. Raven considers that he might prepare and take command in perhaps half a month. "I'll do everything I can to rule over everyone within half a month," declares our hero with confidence. In the middle of a leap with two swords in hand, our hero battles a monster, to remember the feeling of the hunt, analyzing the enemy's size, how many there are, their habits, and how they move. Raven, with a beautiful strike, defeats a demon wolf-like creature. His serious expression from when he was still Raven remains on his face during the fight, sweat pouring down along with his swords. Our hero faces three monsters, two wolves and a bird huge enough to remind him, "Don't count on allies, deal with enemies on your own, so you don't end up like in that battle in your other life." With weapons in hand, he watches the targets during the attack. Using a fast and efficient strike, he eliminates the three monsters all at once. Lindsay applauds her lord's performance. The maid hands fresh clothes to Raven while saying, "Wow, that was amazing, young master." Our hero begins changing shirts, leaving the maid a bit flustered while he thinks, "When I first woke up, I could barely hold a sword." After days of training, he's managed to return to the form he had during hunts, and even recover his healing and combat abilities. Grateful for the miracle, a man asks if Raiden is training swordsmanship. Seeing that our hero has changed his mind makes him so happy. He feels like he could beat a lion with a wink. He says he wants to see who's better and that he'll go easy on him. The man is Mac Killian, a knight of House Pendragon. On the other hand, our hero asks him to step back for now, as he's preparing for a greater stage. Sir Killian becomes curious about the topic. In the main hall of Conrad Castle, Raven says he has an important announcement to make to those present, including knights in Melbourne. "I will open the mausoleum," declares our hero. Everyone is surprised by what is said. Sir Killian states that to do so, he would have to go through the Acorna forest, and asks if that wouldn't be difficult for Raven, who has only trained for a few days. Our hero asks about the current situation near the gate. The situation is terrible, with monsters and bandits out of control, towns having to protect themselves with vigilance, and soon the gates will be broken and invaded. Raven says no matter how dangerous the situation is, "I can't let it go." Melvin tries to convince his master that maybe it's better for the knights to draft some strategies, since they've recovered wealth with the crystal mines. But with not enough men to protect and operate the mine, there's no choice but to reopen. Rainan with a firm stomp of his sheath on the ground. Our hero announces that they don't have much time, and will depart in 15 days. In 2 weeks the expedition will begin. Sir Killian declares, "I won't accept objections about me leading the operation." Raven watches the night in Melbourne, exchanging ideas, showing a wild grin. Our hero asks what. The young lord descends the stairs, complaining that there's always someone against him. If it's so absurd that he leads. He asks the knight whether they should fight. Sir Killian asks if everything is all right, and says he has prepared a grand stage for training, but warns that there will be no survivors if the leader is inexperienced. Raven doesn't like that at all and says his knight talks too much. As he approaches, he says, "If you're a knight," without finishing the sentence. He enters a combat stance. With a quick draw, our hero attacks Sir Killian, who manages to block just in time with his sword. The knight feels the force of the blow coming from the young noble. Raven finishes his earlier sentence. Then speak with your sword. The duel continues as Sir Killian counterattacks, and our hero dodges the blow. With a swift hand movement, the young lord changes his grip on the sword. After dodging the knight's strike, he leaps into the air, gaining height during the descent. He unleashes a powerful strike, so powerful that it breaks Sir Killian's guard, forcing his arm backward. The knight recovers and in a clash of strength shouts, "There's no way a child who never trained and just woke up after years could defeat me with a feint." Raven opens his opponent's guard and quickly shifts his grip once more. Sir Killian doesn't understand what's happening. Our hero smiles as he sheathes his sword. With his sword now sheathed, Raven delivers a direct strike to the knight's chest. The blow knocks the air out of Sir Killian, resulting in his defeat as he collapses to the ground. Melbourne and the knights are stunned by the outcome of the duel. Raven throws his sword at the feet of the butler, and the house warriors. Our hero looks at everyone and says, "I'll say it again, we depart in 15 days. I will form the pact with the dragon and open the mausoleum. If anyone has an objection, speak now." Raven finishes. Everyone kneels and says they have no objections. Inside the drawing room, Lady Luna is sipping a cup of tea. Lady Sarah looks toward the door upon hearing her name. Joseph opens the door, questioning why his lady wants to join her hero on the expedition. The knight continues, "The engagement was cancelled, and no matter how much the young master has changed, that won't help in the expedition. You should return under my escort." Lady Luna scolds Sir Breton's arrogant way of belittling others, and says he hasn't understood why she's still there. The Pendragons are relatives of her family, one of the 5 ducal houses of the empire, one of the 2 heir houses of the emperor, and it is necessary to observe their potential. Because of that, returning now wouldn't be wise, and she will depart alongside Raven. Joseph says he understands, and requests that his lady accompany them only as far as Bellin Gate, and then return. Lady Luna understands and agrees to the knight's request. If the Duke can open the mausoleum, the Pendragon family will regain their former glory, thinks Lady Sarode as she sips her tea. But what she really wants is to see how good the young master Pendragon truly is. Irritated, Joseph blames Raven for embarrassing him and for driving his lady crazy. Plotting something, Sir Breton decides to show just how harsh the world can be. During an expedition, someone walks toward a group of knights. Our hero is now dressed in his battle armor when someone calls him. Walter turns around. Lady Elaine hugs her son, surprising him, and asks him to promise he will return safely. For a moment, our hero doesn't know how to respond, but in the end he assures her that he'll return safely. After conquering the dragon and opening the mausoleum, Lady Elaine weeps on her son's shoulder, begging him to return as promised. Walter notices his sisters watching from a distance. Both struggle not to cry, afraid their brother won't come back. Uncomfortable with the situation, Walter says everything will be fine. I'll be back. Lindsay approaches, dressed for travel and guiding a horse for her lord. Our hero quickly mounts his horse from atop a platform. He presents himself to his entourage, who await his orders. Sir Killian watches with a slight smile. Lindsay seems a little nervous. Joseph doesn't look pleased. Lady Luna appears a bit apprehensive. Melbourne approaches and offers a sword, presenting it as the widow's grief. Our hero accepts the weapon and raises it solemnly to his face. In his thoughts are firm convictions to restore the family's influence, fulfill the Ryden family's wish, and rid himself of the stigma of being an imperial traitor. Now he is determined to fight for his own cause. Once more heroically, he raises the sword to the sky as his horse neighs. Inspiring his men, Raven shouts, "March to battle for the glory of House Pendragon." Our hero and his knights ride at full speed toward the mission. Demonic wolves block the path. Sir Killian reports the presence of the monsters. Raven commands them to crush the beasts. With a dance of his swords, our hero defeats the monsters. Looking at his soldiers, the young Pendragon shouts orders. Don't falter, keep moving forward. Lindsay and Sertilian grow excited. Joseph can't believe what he's seeing, while Lady Luna is impressed. A structure appears, it's the Bellant Gate Fortress. Raven commands everyone to halt. Our hero orders the men to rest and wait for further instructions. While he checks the internal state of the fortress, Lindsay thanks Raven for his hard work. Even tired and dirty from the journey, she offers him water so he can freshen up. Raven seems surprised by the maid's devotion, always thinking of him first. Our hero wipes Lindsay's face, making her blush, and tells her to go wash up and take the day off, though she tries to protest. But again he states it's an order and that he'll be fine on his own. In the end, the maid accepts, without being able to look her young master in the eyes. Raven observes the city, and concludes that the situation is worse than he imagined, and there's no nearby place capable of supplying the fortress with people or materials. The soldiers' equipment is in terrible condition. Our hero remembers how vital the fortress is for the region, but the knights and commanders have been neglecting their duties. Raven questions his knight about the actions of the local superiors. Awkwardly, Sertilian tries to answer. The answer is shocking: the knights deserted, taking the soldiers with them. The deserters have now become bandits, and the ones who remained are useless. Raven grows angry at the lack of discipline, and emits a dark aura that frightens his knights. The given order is to capture all deserters immediately, and the soldiers must be prepared cruelly. He declares the punishment for the former soldiers. Later at night in the village of Sulam, an abandoned monastery is walled by a palisade. Inside, a hand raises a full mug. Deserters comment on the young Master Pendragon having awakened and expressed their weariness from the atrocities they committed. One of the bandits asks what kind of face the noble will make when they finish him off. Inside the Duke's private chamber at Bellant Gate, Raven says he wants to add more troops for the bandit subjugation. Sertilian informs him this could lead to a lack of command and soldiers to guard the barriers. The extra troops will come from Count Cyrod, and Joseph agrees to help us. Thanks for staying at the castle. Raven knows Sir Breton is scheming something, but he doesn't care as long as he remains useful. Our hero inquires whether there will be resistance to being commanded by another family when leaving the fortress, but his knight says no. Sertilian states that the number of bandits grows by the day, so it's best to increase the number of allies. Raven smiles at the information, happy to be understood. He asks for information about the leader of the deserters. Del Jeffrey, he's informed that the man is a skilled swordsman. However, he's also an arrogant man who demanded a title and 3 territories near the fortress. After the fall of the Lord, the Duchess denied the request, and when relations worsened, he escaped through the gate with a few soldiers. Now, Del Jeffrey controls the southern areas near the village of Norton. Raven notes that the enemy is clever for deciding to expand his control in the villages outside the fortress. Recently, cruel acts have been committed against the people and the occupied villages in chaos. If nothing is done, they may begin occupying the barrier. Our hero says he will revise the strategy, but he appoints Sertilian as the one to lead the operation. The knight is surprised by the news. Raven explains the soldiers are used to your orders. They don't know me well enough to follow mine. Sertilian lights up and replies, "You can come on me." The Pendragon Knight is thrilled to take command, while Sir Badron agrees to act as just a knight. Raven informs them that they'll depart early in the morning, and his orders for rest are accepted. Before everyone leaves, our hero calls for his knight and apologizes for what happened last time during your duel. The apology brings tears to Sertilian's eyes. The knight kneels and thanks him for the concern, but says it's unnecessary because he wasn't hurt. Smiling, Raven says, "Understood. I'm counting on you and the Pendragon Knights." Near the village of Norton, people scream in anguish and terror. Del Jeffrey laughs and gives permission for his men to loot the place and get rid of anyone in their way. On her knees, a mother begs for her daughter to be spared. The bandit chief says that those who have nothing to offer are worth nothing. Showing no compassion, the criminal leader silences her, frightening the child who worries about her mother. But now Del Jeffrey approaches the girl, who grows fearful with sword in hand. He says he hates noisy brats and bids her farewell. The child starts crying. An atrocity is committed by the bandit chief. With nothing left to steal, one of the criminals complains, prompting Del Jeffrey to decide to take the fortress. After the fortress, the leader of the criminals decides to seize the castle, executing Aaron in front of the Duchess, and finally claiming the noble lady for himself. Laughing heartily, he imagines himself as the lord of the Pendragon Duchy. Raven arrives at the recently attacked village along with his knights. Seeing that the land is in terrible condition, our hero becomes certain that there's no way people could live well in such a place with that. He asks his knight if all the lands outside the fortress are in the same state. Unfortunately, almost the entire territory is like that, and asking the fortress for help is impossible due to the bandits and monsters nearby. The discovery shifts our hero's priorities, and he realizes he must first rebuild the territory and the city to maintain local operations and the mines. A sound draws everyone's attention as something falls from the trees. Raven gives the order for everyone to stay alert, while he evaluates if the monster is some kind of bird. A creature with the body of a bird and a humanoid face attacks our hero with a powerful dive. A harpy that doesn't scare the young lord. In fact, it excites him. Our hero repels the attack of the winged creature with the precise strike of his sword. After repelling the attacker, he gives orders for 5 strong armed archers to step forward. Without fear, he commands them to capture the harpy alive. The archers fire the bolts from their crossbows, aiming for the monster's wings. Unable to fly, Raven approaches and tells them to fall back. Sir Killian comments that, as expected, the monsters went for the villages. A sound from the bushes grabs the attention of the knight and his lord. From them emerged 3 monsters. Armed with daggers, Sir Killian, surprised, warns that they are goblins. However, they are easily defeated by Raven with simple and swift movements. The knight is shocked by the speed of the blows. Our hero confronts the surviving monsters, while Sir Killian says they will take care of it for him. Raven instantly rejects the suggestion, saying let's make them our allies. Everyone is caught off guard, not understanding what our hero means. The goblins have excellent vision, and the harpies possess great flying speed. Could be advantageous, explains the young lord. He adds, I was thinking of having a few useful familiars. Sir Killian says he's never seen anyone turn demons into familiars, but our hero explains he's read about it in books. Regardless of whether they're monsters or something else, Raven will use anything that is useful, and tells everyone they just need to observe. The young lord questions the goblins why they're outside the forest, and is told by one of them that there are scarier things, and their territory was taken. He now understands the situation, and learns that the goblin is named Kazul. He then points to the harpy, and asks if she has ever attacked people before. The monster introduces herself as Tada, and says she only eats bees and snakes and does not attack humans. Our hero seems intrigued in his memories. This is quite different from what the harpy just said. He's seen the truth up close once on the battlefield. What harpies really eat, even though he's seen one attack people. He decides to believe this harpy, who thanks him with a strike against the tree near the monsters. He says, however, grabbing Tada in an intimidating way, he declares that he is the owner of these lands, and that they will now obey him or be given to the dragon. Both the harpy and the goblin are frightened and swear to obey, saying the dragon is terrifying. Having gained the loyalty of the monsters, Raven commands them to guide the knights to the nearest village by the shortest route. Castle Nervous says he knows the routes and asks them to follow him. Sir Killian is astonished by the feat and imagination of our hero, saying they need to learn more from him. Raven agrees with the knight's words and adds, this is something I want the stubborn and troublesome nobles to imitate. The knights follow Kazel, who celebrates that they're almost at the village and got there faster, thanks to the shortcut he knows. Raven shares his plans to invade the monastery with Sir Breton and a few soldiers, and that Sir Killian should join afterward. Lady Luna, while being guided by Joseph to safety, worries about her exeance because he's never been in a battle before. Our hero gives the orders for the group to move forward. Raven commands the 2 monsters to carry out aerial reconnaissance. While he leads the attack, the palace gates are open for the bandits to enter, with the people they captured. A woman begs Del Jeffrey not to be violent with the child, but he says she should be grateful the girl is still alive. The child begins to cry and scream, calling for her mother. The bandit leader orders the child to shut up. Threatening her, the woman screams for Del Jeffrey to stop. With a single strike, the ex-knight is stopped. Without understanding what just happened, the criminal leader looks at his arm, Raven struck him perfectly, saving the child and the woman while subduing Del Jeffrey. Our hero from atop his horse looks down at the bandit on the ground with disgust. The woman is shocked while the criminal leader stammers, pointing at the one who attacked him. Frightened, he finally says the name Aaron Pendragon. On the other hand, the peasant woman is relieved to be saved. With sword in hand, Raven declares, "Finally found you, you piece of trash." With a smile, Raven faces the bandit, surprised and worried. Del Jeffrey stares at our hero. The knights approach while the criminal stammers you. The bandits and deserters charge into battle. As their chief asks why the Pendragon is even there, Raven startles Del Jeffrey with a swift attack. The sword makes a shallow cut on the criminal, who remains terrified. Our hero intimidates the bandit leader, saying, "Who gave you permission to open that filthy mouth?" Del Jeffrey begins to panic. Under Raiden's intimidation, he flees in terror, calling all his subordinates, ordering them to finish off the young Pendragon. The bandits rush into combat. Raven draws his second sword with his mouth as if staring at trash. He drops the sword scabbard as soon as it hits the ground. Our hero dashes into battle. Del Jeffrey is stunned to be ignored and overtaken by Raven. With martial mastery, our hero devastates the opponents. The bandit leader is in disbelief as he watches his men fall. One by one, finally, our hero goes for the finishing blow against the criminal, but his sword collides with something that, however, does not surprise our hero, who calmly assesses what happened. Sir Breton uses his own sword to block the strike. Lady Luna and her guards can't believe what they're witnessing. Smiling, Joseph says, "Need a hand, mister?" Bandit leader, shocked, Del Jeffrey asks, "Who are you?" Raven separates from the clash with a backward leap. The traitor introduces himself as Joseph Breton, leader of Count Sarad's Crimson Knights. The knight declares darkly, "Seeing how badly you want to finish this brat, I thought I'd lend you a hand." Our hero shows no emotion, as if he expected something like this. Lady Luna demands to know what her knight is doing, but is pushed aside by her ex-fiancé. Joseph reveals his motives, saying, "I'm the best choice for you. My lady is unfit to be a duke." Del Jeffrey mocks the situation, thinking the whole fight is ridiculous. "Very well," says the criminal, spotting a sword on the ground. Now armed, he throws himself into battle. Grateful for the assistance, Joseph joins the attack, and Del Jeffrey says, "They'll make our hero regret underestimating them." Unbothered, Raven watches the incoming assault as Lady Luna cries out his name. With skill, using only one hand, the young Pendragon blocks the enemy's strike with his sword. In a swift motion, our hero pushes the opponent's back. Raven says to his ex-fiancé, "I won't repeat myself, stay back. I'll take care of your knight for you." Gazelle is tasked with protecting Lady Luna. Goblin hurries her along, but she fears for our hero's safety against two powerful opponents. Reluctantly following the creature, Lady Sarah looks back. She sees the back of our hero as he faces his enemies with determination. Blushing at the sight of the man she fell in love with, Raven commands Todd to follow the orders given earlier that morning and contact Sir Killian. Joseph and Del Jeffrey laugh, saying it's too late to call reinforcements. Our hero challenges both enemies to a fight, saying, "It's a good joke," with a confident look. Raven says, "I'll be your opponent." "Come on," Sir Breton charges, saying, "Even if you've changed, you still don't have more battle experience than I do." Joseph strikes with a heavy downward blow, which Raiden dodges effortlessly. Our hero steps on the traitor knight's sword. Exerting pressure, he breaks it underfoot. Sir Breton is shocked to see his sword shattered, and doesn't notice Raven behind him. A kick lands squarely on Joseph. He's thrown into Del Jeffrey. Both fall to the ground injured and disarmed. Raven mocks them, saying, "You won't land a hit on me with that basic fencing. You were quite helpful at the castle." Our hero comments while injuring Joseph's foot. Then he raises his sword over his head and says, "Now accept my gratitude." Sir Breton tries to defend, but his arm is injured. The pain is so intense that he begins to sweat cold, until he starts screaming in pain, clutching his wounded arm. Raven steps on the chest of the fallen knight, while questioning why he's lying down. If his job is to protect Lady Sarah, our hero orders Joseph to stand up, and warns him never to step foot on his lands again. Leaving the knight terrified, scared and crying, Sir Breton runs away. With one less to deal with, Raven turns to Del Jeffrey and says, "You're next, you piece of trash." The bandit leader asks if his executioner made a pact with the devil, then informs him that there are many bandits in the territory, and doubts the young noble can defeat them all alone. Our hero smiles at that and asks, "Did you forget there are many excellent soldiers in House Pendragon?" Raven tells the criminal horses race down the road at full speed. The Pendragon knights arrive for battle, to exterminate the remaining pests. Smiling, Raven assures that the traitorous scum won't have a peaceful end. Del Jeffrey is terrified by what's coming. The knights advance, defeating the bandits. Del Jeffrey receives his punishment by being imprisoned in a monastery. Our hero and his knight observe the captive band. Raven looks at the people further back, wounded, exhausted and starving men wearing rags as clothing. In one of the monastery rooms, there is a pile of bones. Many people are gone forever. All of this leaves our hero furious, injuring the bandit. Raven says he hasn't seen any local residents since arriving. That makes him question whether the bandits exterminated everyone. Del Jeffrey begs for forgiveness. Raven mocks him, saying, "It's fitting that people who do as they please on his land end up begging for mercy." The bandit asks if the young noble will be the one to execute him, but our hero replies, "I'm not the one who will make that decision." Del Jeffrey doesn't understand what the noble means. Raven turns to the weary men, saying that the choice belongs to the surviving residents. The survivors hear that they may do as they wish. With the bandit leaving him speechless, our hero calmly leaves the place. The men look at each other to decide what to do. Rage finally overtakes the survivors. They approach Del Jeffrey fearful. He begs them to stop. His fate is sealed by the survivors. Del Jeffrey's days of cruelty finally come to an end. Raven walks through the ruined corridors of the monastery. Slowly he opens one of the doors and sees something in front of him. The statue of the revered goddess is damaged. One last bandit appears from behind the monument, ready to attack our hero in desperation. The criminal finally leaps to attack, but the attack is easily deflected, losing the clash of strength. The bandit is pushed back, falling on the stairs to the statue, where Raiden steps on his chest. Our hero finally draws his sword and executes the criminal right there, staying the already damaged statue. Raven once again sets his gaze on the moment and says, "Leona, goddess of light, will you curse me for what I did in front of you?" Without hesitation, though, "I was reborn and given another chance to live. I don't want to live as a fraud," declares our hero. Raven makes his vows to respect those who deserve and punish the cruel, saying that this is the kind of person he is. Slowly, our hero removes a pendant from his neck and throws it as an offering. The jewel slips through the gap in the offering box. Raven continues, "This is the path I chose, and it will condemn me. Do it after I conquer what I want," he finishes saying as he turns around, slowly walking away from the room and the monastery. In Norton Village, the small detachment meets with the survivors. A woman thanks our hero for everything he did, and asks the goddess to bless him. After learning that they'll be able to ask for help in rebuilding the place, the people celebrate, wishing long life to the Pendragon family. On the way, Kazal and Tada ask for a reward for their good work, and Raven says he'll reward them at the camp. This makes the two monsters happy. Sir Killian reports that Norton Village seems to be doing well, and asks if they've invaded the Ancona forest. Our hero informs him no, because there is still too much to do. First, at night in Castle Pendragon. Inside the office, Raven is speaking with Akia. He asks her, "You're saying we can use the orcs from the forest to our advantage?" Our hero's great aunt informs him yes, because of their oath to never leave the forest, and that they are stronger than others of their kind. Raven doubts that the monsters will help, since they only care about fighting. Ats says, "That depends on you, because orcs only follow those stronger than them. To them, dragons are the strongest, and you can't convince them with Soul Drake. Since you were deemed unworthy, you'll have to fight to earn their trust." Raven becomes thoughtful about these monsters. H reminds him of his old nickname from the battlefield. Noticing that our hero shows no fear, that makes her wonder if he's fought these creatures before. Calmly, Raven watches her. He replies yes, while recalling a battle against an orc. Even wounded, it kept fighting with resilience. It had tough, resistant skin, taller and stronger than a human, forcing him to push his body to the limit, requiring more strength than usual to defeat it. Still, it's no different from a human in how it can be beaten. The memory casts a dark mood over him for a few moments. Raven confirms he fought and barely won, shortly after joining the demonic forces. But if he were to fight now, he'd likely win. Aisha gives a cheerful thumbs up, knowing he can do it. Excited, she says that after defeating the orcs, they'll be able to reach the mausoleum. Raven feels the weight of it and says, "You make it sound easy." Hoofs pound against the dirt road. A group of knights rides along the path. Sir Killian is surprised by the decision to ally with the orcs, and says he's reluctant about the idea. Raven explains they'll need more warriors to clear the forest, but his knight argues they'll be annihilated by the monsters. Kazel agrees, trying to stop our hero. Tata cries in fear while the goblin says it's a terrible idea to pick a fight with orcs. Our hero says he hates loser mentalities, and demands they find a way to win, or else be offered to the dragon, sending the two monsters into despair. A scream grabs Raven's attention. Sir Killian realizes it's Sir Breton, which surprises his lord. Kazel informs that the situation looks bad. They are the orcs of Econa. Raven smiles while Sir Killian is left astonished. Their lord departs to meet the orcs. A sword trembles in someone's grip. Joseph, terrified, tries to keep the enemy at bay by pointing his weapon at them. Lady Luna is anxious about what's happening. 5 orcs approached the pair, but Joseph, now sitting on the ground in fear, yells for the monsters to stay back. "Nothing good ever comes from being with Sir Breton," says Lady Seared. Earlier before this, she had to reprimand her knight for his actions. During the monastery battle, she said that pointing a sword at the Pendragon is like pointing it at the Empire, and that if he wants to rebel, he should abandon the Seared family first. Joseph begs not to be cast out, and says he still needs to escort her home. Lady Luna agrees that this was the only duty her knight had, and that her father will be the one to punish him. Joseph realizes he's screwed. Lady Sarah commands that they start heading back because she's tired. Baring his teeth, the orc speaks to the human. He says, "You're pointing your sword at us." The monster intimidates him for it, making Joseph even more frightened. Raven finally arrives and asks, "What are you doing?" startling the orc. Sir Breton and Lady Luna turn to see who it is. The two humans are shocked to see Duke Pendragon. Joseph cowardly begs to be saved. He hides close to our hero, who questions how he ever became a knight. The rest of the Pendragon soldiers arrive, and Sir Killian calls out to his lord, saying it's dangerous to go alone. The red flag bearing the white dragon crest draws the orc's attention. It makes him realize who they are, and who the armored man on horseback is. He soon says, "Aaron Pendragon, just when I wanted to meet you." Our hero simply stares at him in silence. The orc lets out a roar in Raven's direction. Sir Killian freezes in fear. He thinks the terror is so great he can't move or breathe properly. Still terrified, he believes his lord must also be scared and suggests they retreat. However, Raven dismounts his horse, surprising his knights, who realize he wasn't affected at all by the monster's roar. Unarmored, our hero approaches the orcs, facing the monsters directly. Raven commands his men not to approach or draw their weapons. Standing before the enemy, he says that he alone is enough to end this. Our hero adds calmly, "The monsters are confused for a few moments, but the leading orc finally understands, and begins cracking his knuckles in anger." Raven and the orc lock eyes. Our hero asks if they are the Akana orcs. The monster replies, crouching. So what? Raven simply watches him with a calm face. But he's irritated. This leads him to headbutt the orc in the face. The orc feels the impact and is injured. Meanwhile, our hero remains fine. The other orcs watch their ally fall to the ground. Everyone is surprised by what just happened, but Sir Killian fears what might come next. The orcs start laughing and begin mocking their ally Carta, who was injured by a human's attack. Sir Killian remains stunned to see the monsters laughing and mocking the defeated one. Irritated, the orc stands up, cursing the young Pendragon while asking what he's doing. But Raven asks the same question, saying, "By the contract, you should be forbidden from leaving the forest. Yet here you are." Hard replies, "This is your fault. You were abandoned by the guardian of the forest. We refuse to obey a weakling." The ORC says and adds that if they have to follow the guardian spirit, they won't obey someone who failed to form the pack. Raven understands that they're referring to Soldrake. Hard reveals they left the forest to return to battle and take control of the territory. Our hero realizes they're simply thirsty for a fight. Cracking his knuckles, he says he wants their strength and knows they won't obey. Raven continues saying, That's why I went through the trouble of coming here. You know why I'm disarming, don't you? The orc smiles and answers. Even though you're just a human, it seems you know the rules of the orcs. Smiling, the monster drops his weapon on the ground, while Raiden confirms that he knows the rules well. Both must be on equal terms with weapons, and if challenged, they must accept the duel. The orc is thrilled by what our hero says, who suggests they should fight under orc rules. Raven and Carl to charge at each other. The orc slams the ground, cracking it with his enormous strength, while our hero leaps over his opponent. He understands that the monster is more skilled than others of his kind, and that, if he were just a normal person, he would have been executed right there. Card recovers from his mistake and prepares a punch against Raven, who, realizing this, also prepares a kick with his iron boots. York's fist collides with our hero's feet, breaking the ground due to the impact. Everyone is shocked to see the young Pendragon fighting evenly with the monster. A sound draws Raiden's attention. His iron boot is broken and losing pieces. Our hero knows the enemy hasn't used his full power yet, but that he's not as fast as the work he fought in the past. Hardas says mid-attack. That's obvious, human. All humans are defeated instantly if I use my full strength, so I only use it against those who can stop my punch. The monster explains. Raven replies, then it's time to face me with your full power. The orc says he knows that and thinks Pendragon is a very interesting human. Heart of speed increases, making it harder for our hero to dodge, so much so that he ends up getting hurt and caught off guard. After the attack, the orc prepares another blow and declares, I want to fight you more, don't you dare lose now. Our hero crosses his arms in front of his body to block the punch, feeling the struggle due to the great force of the strike. Lady Luna, Tata Kazel, and Sir Killian grow worried, while Joseph gets excited. Raven seems to have been injured after defending himself. Carter waits for the dust to settle to see what happened. Looking at his fist, the orc is sure he landed the hit, but something feels off, cursing. Raven walks out of the cloud of dust smiling. Our hero appears fine but with a wound on his forehead. He says, my body's a bit rusty since lately I've only fought incompetence. Seeing Raven still standing, Joseph looks discouraged and Lady Luna is surprised. The orcs are thrilled by his tenacity, while Tata Kazel and Sir Killian are in disbelief. The knight can't believe his lord is standing after that blow. It worries him for his lord's safety, since he's never heard of a human defeating an orc alone. Because of that, he orders the knights to advance and protect the young Pendragon. Raven immediately commands them to stop and even injured says, this is a battle between me and the ORC. I don't need your protection. Sir Killian hesitates but obeys his lord's decision. Clapping his hands, the cloaked ORC starts laughing, saying splendid. Splendid, while showing surprise at seeing Raiden still standing, after facing the strongest in Ancona. That's why he thinks Pendragon is such an interesting human. Our hero and Carter face each other once more. Raven declares that he'll go all out, using the fight as rehabilitation. The York praises him for enduring his punch, but says it's only a matter of time. Our hero asks if he's being underestimated. Thanks to his regeneration ability, that blow was just a scratch. Slowly the wound closes as if it never existed. Card is surprised to see the injury vanish. The ORC gets ready for more. Finding it all very interesting, he charges for an attack. He says that our hero now has his full attention. Bringing his hands together, he strikes with a crushing blow that cracks the ground. But Raven swiftly dodges. The noble understands that to win, he must hit the opponent's weak points with all his strength. First, he'll need to restrict the ORC's movements. Our hero says it will be easy, since he can regenerate and the monster is too stupid. Returning to the offensive, Harda mocks his opponent, saying, dodging all the time is boring and asking where his courage is. However, Raven counters the taunt by asking if the Akana orcs only know how to swing their fists. The monster falls for the provocation and gets irritated. He summarizes the assault by asking if our hero is mocking his tribe. This time he lifts one of his legs to strike, saying, hell make the human regret what he said, as he launches a powerful kick, falling right into Raven's plan, who blocks the strike with his arms. It works at first, but the guard is broken and his arms are injured. Sir Killian shouts in concern for his lord's condition. Harda declares, it's the end for the noble now that his arms are useless. That makes Raven smile, as he grabs the orc's leg with his hands and mockingly says, got you, which surprises the monster as he realizes he's been caught. Our hero shows that his arms are fine. This is the end for you, Orc of Akona. says Raven. Carta is certain he had disabled the opponent's arms, but now he realizes it was all part of Pendragon's plan. Releasing the orc's leg, Raven manages to strike his opponent midair. York realizes there's no way to dodge our hero's attack. He braces himself as Raven unleashes a violent kick against Carta, striking him and making him grunt in pain, knocking the orc to the ground. For the first time in the duel, Tata, Kazel, and Sir Killian are surprised once again, while Lady Luna and Joseph are in disbelief at what they're witnessing. Meanwhile, the robed orc reveals a smile. At the same time, the other three monsters cheer up. As they approach, they shout, "Incredible, Carta has been defeated," they say again. The orcs believe Raven is a powerful human. With the fight over, Carta is helped by his allies. Sir Cillian dismounts and asks if they can treat our hero's arm. Raven says he's fine and that it doesn't hurt, leaving his knight confused, who asks how he can say that. Our hero lets out a sigh, but in truth, he feels intense pain, since regenerating the injury is far more painful. It doesn't take long for the damaged arm to heal. Raven is relieved by the regeneration. After recovering, he begins speaking with the monsters to confirm the name of his opponent. Once confirmed, Raven orders the ORC to obey him. Carter knows the loser must follow the victor, and asks what they should do. Our hero says they will conquer the forest of Akona, and wants the monsters' help. The ORC doesn't understand why, since Raven was rejected by the dragon. Even so, the young noble says he will open the mausoleum, leaving the monsters surprised by the goal. Standing up extremely fast, Carter asks if they're going to form a pact with the orcs. Raven says that when they reach the dragon, there will be a horde of monsters waiting, saying that from now on they'll be able to fight every day. Hardin can barely contain his joy, and eagerly declares that they'll reach the mausoleum quickly, as there are only weak monsters along the way. Easing the night's work, a soldier solemnly hands the sword. Widow's grief to Raven. Our hero draws it immediately. Harta notices and kneels on the ground. The orcs don't understand why their leader is kneeling. One by one they start kneeling as well, to receive the pact and serve the Pendragons. Raven expects all the orcs to give their best. Harta doesn't reply but smiles. Lady Luna feels admiration, but Joseph grows angry at our hero. On a wooden bridge over a river, Raven informs that he'll leave some of his men to escort Lady Starrid back home. Lady Luna thanks him and doesn't know how to apologize for her knight. Our hero turns his attention to Joseph. Intimidating him, he says, "Next time you point your sword at me, I won't be merciful," making Sir Breton tremble in fear. Carter watches the knight with anger, preventing him from entertaining any foolish ideas. Turning his back to the knight and Lady Sarah, our hero calls the orc to lead with him. Lady Luna pushes Joseph, trying to speak with Raven, but he pays no attention as he's conversing with Carta. At that moment, Lady Sarah is certain that Raven will open the mausoleum and form the pact with the dragon, as he is accompanied by the knights Carta, Sir Killian, Tata, Hazel, and the Akana orcs. Seeing our hero's back as he walks away, Lady Luna says his name with blushing cheeks. Meanwhile, Joseph goes back to being angry. Night begins to fall as the sun sets behind the mountains. Raven looks at the place and says he can finally see it. Akona Forest, a vast forest that stretches to the mountains. A sight our hero faces naturally, but Sir Killian appears tense, while Tata and Kazel are fearful, and Carter smiles with excitement. It all starts here, says Raven. The battle he swore to fight will finally begin. Soul Drake watches the moon in the sky amidst the valley. He says, "So you came. I'm here. Try to find the entrance to this domain. You who do not possess the soul of a Pendragon." In the Akona Forest Valley during the day, winged snakes are exterminated by the orcs, who complain that the enemies are too weak and that it's boring. However, for the humans, the enemies prove to be troublesome. More winged snakes appear and strike, catching one of the knights by surprise, but our hero arrives in time and manages to slay the monsters and save the soldier, who was surprised his lord had no trouble at all. The knight kneels and thanks him for the help. Raiden leaves the wounded in the care of Kratos, the cloaked dork. The monster informs them he has some very effective medicines. Sir Killian comes down the slope and asks if his lord is injured. Our hero replies that he's fine, and asks about the status of the rest of the soldiers. Learning there are a few wounded but nothing serious, Raven quickly asks Carta if they are close to Soul Drake, but the ORC isn't certain. However, he says he's sure there's a cave in a quarry up ahead. that leads to the dragon. They march a bit more along the river. Our hero asks if there's anything they should watch out for on the way, but Card informs him there's nothing. As it's work territory, Raven decides to move forward to the quarry, where they will set up camp and search for the cave, leaving the orcs in charge of the upcoming battles. Carda and Circilian smile and respond understood. Already nighttime in the forest. Our hero climbs stone stairs while leading his horse, finally arriving at a rocky cliff. Everyone arrives at the abandoned quarry. The goblin, the harpy, and Circilian appear uneasy, but Carda remains serious. Raven finds it strange for such a quarry to feel so sinister. This leads him to ask the ORC why the quarry is sealed, who tells our hero he's not sure, but knows the goblins used to mine there. Carda continues saying, there are rumors that all the miners vanished at the same time and never returned. Raven turns to Kazel, who says he doesn't know anything since he doesn't live in the forest. He also says he's never heard of Gothland's mining and admits he's better at stealing than working. Everyone agrees that's a fact. Circilian asks his lord what's wrong, but our hero says it's best they don't stay in that place at night, and that the orcs should stand guard while the soldiers rest. Raven entrusts the night watch to Carter, who promises to do a good job. Torches are lit to illuminate the area. Some orcs rest leaning against the trees. Tada and Kazel sleep on a blanket. The tents are set up for the soldiers to rest. A knight stands guard beside an orc, who watches from a higher vantage point. The soldier hears a noise that catches his attention. It makes him get up and go investigate the stone stairs, but a side strikes him by surprise. Before understanding much, a change begins to occur in the night. He falls to the ground, trying to warn his lord. In the tent, Raiden is deep in thought, questioning how could all the goblins just disappear. Something's wrong. Our hero realizes they might not have vanished, but that someone made them vanish. Yet the question is who? A figure in a black cloak and ominous aura watches the camp from above. Skeletal hands rise from the ground as the figure reveals itself to be a skeleton, and more begin to sprout near the tents. From the ground, monsters made of bones rise. Creature with two dog heads joins the arm skeletons. Our hero spots the enemies and quickly draws his swords, heading outside. Upon exiting the tent, he comes face to face with the two-headed monster, surprised to find it so close. In his gaze, he sees the creature's mouths with sharp teeth coming in to bite, but he quickly dodges the attack. Our hero wonders where the monsters came from. No wonder the goblins disappeared, says Raven, who quickly strikes the two-headed creature with one of the heads. Defeated, the monster roars in rage, waking all the soldiers. Tada, the orcs, and Circilian. They are forced to grab their weapons in a hurry. Circilian is surprised to see his lord, our hero, facing the two-headed monster alone. Raven doesn't hesitate, showing his seriousness, and strikes at the creature's eyes. It roars in pain, giving our hero the chance for a finishing blow. Finally defeating the two-headed monster, Carda and Circilian approach, and the knight asks what's going on. He's surprised by what he sees. Skeletons approaching, and he asks if those weren't the goblins from the mine. Carda asks who wiped them out, and Raven says it was a lich, a being capable of commanding the undead as servants, and who seems intent on preventing them from making the oath with the dragon and opening the mausoleum. The news leaves the orc and the knight speechless. More monsters approach, surrounding everyone, leaving no choice but to fight. Our hero explains as two-headed hounds and giant snakes approach, that until they find the summoner, the creatures won't disappear. Raven gives orders for his soldiers to buy time until he finds and defeats the lich. Everyone charges into the monster horde. The orcs easily crush the gauntlet skeletons. Circilian thinks about how many enemies are appearing to stop them, but he's determined to prevent that. The knight believes our hero will accomplish what his ancestors couldn't, especially due to his great change. Even more so because his new lord is far better than the previous one. This gives him the certainty that they'll succeed in forming the pact and opening the mausoleum, restoring glory and bringing prosperity to House Pendragon. Circilian believes the time has finally come for the duchy to rise. Again, the knight faces a two-headed monster, showing the strength of the proud white dragon cavalry. He swiftly defeats the monster with a single blow, sending it flying into the quarry wall, revealing more monsters armed with short throwing spears. The skeletons hurl their javelins. Their target is our hero, who's in the middle of fighting two giant snakes. Raven is sure he's the primary target, and needs to find the lich as fast as possible. Switching to a reverse grip, our hero strikes one of the serpent's eyes, forcing it to act as a shield against the javelins. The tactic works and one of the monsters is defeated. This raises questions, but Raven connects the situation of the Pendragons with the vault, realizing they want something, since they're trying to stop him. Our hero smiles faintly as he stares down the other giant snake. Raven challenges the enemy saying, "I will restore this house as authority, even if it's against your will. So feel free to trouble us anytime now or later." The serpent lunges, but our hero raises his sword high and with a powerful strike, defeats the monster, concluding that he will seize the glory of the vault with his own hands. With the enemies defeated, Raven retrieves the sword impaled in the first fallen snake, as he watches his soldiers fighting, having already defeated many enemies. And even though they're just skeletal goblins, they won't be able to win. There are too many and there's still a lich at that moment. A scythe appears with its blade pointed at our hero, catching him by surprise and making him tense. A lich is a sorcerer who sealed their own soul to become immortal, doing anything to get what they want. That's why they are harshly punished by the Empire, which values the laws of nature, using a light demonic forces for that, because they don't value these soldiers. The number of casualties is high. Raven remembers a moment where someone was struck by a giant scythe. After being wounded, the person was executed immediately. Shocking our hero, he only noticed what had happened after hearing a sound from the wounded person on the ground, leaving him unsure of how it even happened, since the lich hadn't even moved from his seat, leading him to believe it was magic. The sight of the monster terrifies one of the soldiers, who starts fleeing while screaming. It's a ghost, but with a simple movement of the skeletal finger. The enemy wreaked the soldier's life. Raven feels a chill and finally understands that the legend is real. The lich's most powerful servant, who can remain hidden, the phantom being a spirit, can't be seen by human eyes. Our hero notices the scythe and knows that if it hits him, it will be the end. His memories help him realize what's about to happen, and he quickly blocks the phantom's weapon with his sword. Widow's grief, the jewel on the sword, begins to glow with a blue light, repelling the phantom as it becomes wrapped in an aura, matching the light from the gem, which quickly fades away again, leaving our hero safe but confused about what just happened. Raven looks at his sword, trying to understand what's happening. Sir Killian yells out to one of his fallen soldiers, drawing our hero's attention. The knight reports that the men are fainting out of nowhere, unaware that the ghost sight is approaching from behind. Raven notices it and runs to save him, pulling him forcefully out of the spectral enemy's attack. Sir Killian doesn't understand anything and asks, "What is that?" Our hero senses the danger and realizes the situation is terrible. There are multiple ghosts, and those who have never seen these monsters won't understand what's going on. The only way to defeat them is by taking down the lich. If Regan leaves to hunt down the enemy leader, his soldiers will be defeated. But if he doesn't, they'll be overwhelmed by the number of monsters. Although Tada and Kazel can see well at night, they can't help because they're terrified. And since he can't abandon the soldiers, like he did in the demon organization, our hero finds himself in a dilemma. The orc shaman's staff begins to glow. He strikes his weapon against the ground, raising a light around the camp. This makes him laugh happily, saying that now it's his turn. Raven doesn't understand what the orc is talking about. Kratos offers his strength and says, "Behold the power granted by the great earth god." The staff glows once more, creating massive roots that rise from the ground and go straight toward the enemy monsters. They pass through some of the enemies. Kratos then makes an upward motion, causing the roots to destroy several monsters at once, forming a kind of tree that emits a green light. Raven complains that he didn't use that magic earlier, but is informed it's an exhausting spell and takes time to cast. The orc shaman says, "Unfortunately, this isn't the end. Let me tell you something. This is not a spell I can use multiple times, and this will be our first and last chance." Crouton concludes. Raven observes the strange tree, which lights the area with a green glow, and the orc shaman informs him that while the magic lasts, our hero needs to find the lich surprise. The young Pendragon scans the lit-up area, the nearby trees, the rock wall, and finally sees his enemy emitting a sinister aura above the mining wall. Cradle says he'll take care of the skeletons, putting his trust in our hero who advances toward the monster. Little by little the skeletal goblins are destroyed by Carta, who even injured remains strong in battle. Raven calls out to him, informing him that the lich is just above. Carta throws his weapon to the ground and says, "Come." With hands ready, he braces for Raven's foot, who steps down for momentum and is launched upward with great force by Carta. Soaring high, our hero gets a better view of the monster. As he begins to fall, he prepares to strike his target. A red glow flashes from one of the lich's eyes, which quickly blocks Raven's swords using its staff. He's then knocked back by the force. Our hero challenges the lich, saying, "I'm right here in front of you. Didn't you want my life?" A sinister wind hits Raiden's cape, making him realize the ghost followed him, leaving the rest of the troops to deal with weaker, but numerous enemies because of that. Raven needs to end the problem quickly. As magical energy builds up around the lich, the monster casts a spell with its staff, creating massive bone hands, but our hero destroys them with ease. With no obstacles, Raven charges toward the lich, who seems to be accepting the noble's attacks, but our hero realizes it's a trap and two ghosts attack him. Surprised, he trades his strike for a dodge. Now, knowing the spirits are defending the lich, our hero distances himself, aware it's dangerous to get close recklessly. His only chance is to drive the ghosts away. A new glow emerges from the monster's staff, which fires flames toward Raven. But the spell scorches everything around the young noble, leaving our hero with no escape route and in danger from the ghost. Two sides suddenly appear close to Raven, who realizes the enemy too late, making his sword emit a blue light, creating a shield against the ghost's scythe and saving our hero. The lich is surprised by the light, clearly disturbed. Raven hears a voice from within the fiery light that says, "I want to know who you are. You have an unusual soul, however. I will wait for you, then show me you can reach this place." "O unknown soul," the voice of the dragon concludes. Raven recognizes the voice of Soul Drake. The light pushes the fire back and illuminates the place where our hero stands. His eyes resemble those of the white dragon, leaving the lich shocked and able to see what he couldn't before. "So these are the phantoms," says Raven, seen for the first time. Two massive creatures in the sky head. The spirits roar at our hero, who drives his white sword into the ground and bravely faces the monsters, beginning a movement with the weapon, unleashing a blow similar to Soul Drake's breath against the phantoms, slowly burning and destroying them. This forces the lich to retreat toward the edge of a cliff. However, Raven crosses through the blue fire and confronts the monster head-on, cutting off its escape routes. The enchanted sword closes in on the monster, piercing it as Raven says, "It's over for you, lich." Our hero pulls the sword back as the lich lets out a silent scream. Being destroyed by the blue flames, Raven watches to make sure it's over, and all that remains is the staff and the monster's black cloak. The purple gem on the lich's weapon shatters, causing all the skeletons to collapse to the ground. Carter doesn't understand what's happening, but the shaman smiles, knowing the lich has been defeated. The monsters begin to emit a dark aura, igniting and turning into white ashes that rise. Kratos explains, because they've lost their leader. The ashes float up to the skies to become one with the mist and ascend to the heavens. The orc shaman finishes explaining. The soldiers cry over the loss of their friends. Sir Killian can't hold back the tears while our hero watches seriously, his men praying for those who have fallen. Everything becomes calm again, and both humans and monsters begin to rest. Our hero ends up falling asleep while cleaning his white sword, letting the cloth he was using drop to the ground, which reminds him of when he received a sealed envelope, smiling as he remembers someone gently brushing his hair, and the fight caused by the received letter, where he was accused of something, a trap he had to defend himself from while already in chains. The terrible days spent imprisoned, calling for his parents, and the day he saw what he feared during a heavy rain. His tears fall just like Aaron's. The memories of the young Pendragon losing his father, crying he swore to become a dragon knight and a worthy Pendragon, while holding his father's hand, breaking down in tears. Raven realizes these are Aaron Pendragon's memories, which wakes him up with a jolt, breathing heavily and drenched in sweat. It fills him with anger but also leaves him shaken. The orc shaman is surprised to see our hero leave his tent, asking still awake kid. Raven, looking tired, stares at Kratos but says that, after what happened, it's good to keep watch. The orc, however, says they're strong, and that leaving it to the humans would only lead to more losses. The makeshift graves in the camp's corner don't lie. More relaxed Kratos says it was a tough battle, but Raven explains that the sword saved him. The orc shaman becomes curious. The cherished sword of the Pendragon's widow's grief. This pommel shaped like the head of the white dragon. This sword gave me the power to protect myself from the phantom sightings. It was Sol Drake's flame, says Raven. Kratos asks if it's from the guardian deity of the forest. Our hero confirms it has his power. Raven recalls having received another ability from the dragon, power to see through all things. This leaves the orc shaman confused. Soldrick knows he isn't Eren but Raven, which leaves our hero shaken, remembering the dreams of young Pendragon. Why did I dream about Eren? Raven asks himself, confused. Seeing his troubled expression, Cradle becomes concerned, but ends up startled by Raven's irritated glare, who apologizes saying he just hasn't slept much, while the shaman tells him to go get some rest. Our hero doesn't respond but then admits he had a nightmare. Both fall into silent thought with nothing else to say. Cradle says he understands. A new day dawns in the Ancona forest. Hard is having a bad feeling while Tada and Kazel tremble in fear. Cradle agrees, saying the chances of returning have dropped even further. The cave emits the dragon's overwhelming power. Sir Killian comments that demon senses are stronger than those of humans, and Raven adds that perhaps here is where the mausoleum they seek lies. The memories of that terrible day return. They leave our hero irritated. Raven knows the dragon is waiting for Eren, but he needs the dragon's strength to take revenge for House Fault, and he'll have to make the dragon listen. Our hero remembers the dragon's defeat on the battlefield, slowly drawing his sword, and that, after the defeat, it was reborn in Eren's body. Solemnly and seriously he continues to unsheath the sword. As he finishes drawing it, Raven is certain the dragon knows what happened. Our hero points the sword toward the cave, and commands his soldiers to prepare. A torch lights up the darkness. Carter leads the way through the crystal-filled cave, guided by his sense of smell and hearing. The orc finds the right path. Sir Killian finds it incredible, and Raven explains that orcs are great at finding water, which is the best skill for their current situation. Cradle suddenly stops moving, prompting our hero to ask what happened, and the orc says he sensed something. Splashes of water fly through the air, surprising Cradle when he looks up. Our hero and Sir Killian are also caught off guard. Two spirits fly through the cave. A third joins the pair, laughing. A waterfall is revealed inside the cave. Cradle points, saying there are water spirits, and Raven asks if they're dangerous. The orc shaman replies no, but the spirits shouldn't be in a place protected by the great earth god, and lacking in vital energy. Our hero grows thoughtful at the information. Sir Killian thinks they're trapped, but Carter says there's a staircase behind the waterfall, and that it must be the exit. Raven notices something in the middle of the waterfall. Kratos is surprised to hear there's something behind the water. Something like a dish. The water begins to behave strangely, and slowly starts to take an abnormal shape. Carter and Sir Killian are shocked and confused by what they see. Our hero is speechless at the strange water and its new form, which resembles a dragon hatchling or reptile. Cradle smiles, indicating that it's there. A water spirit which roars while staring at everyone. Raven and Carter find it odd that its form is that of a turtle, made of water. It lifts one of its front legs and slams the ground near everyone, creating a water explosion. Our hero steps back, stating they're under attack, and Cradle says it must be guarding something. Raven assumes it's some kind of treasure. The shaman suggests it must be what the noble saw in the middle of the water. Now having to face an elemental, our hero believes there's no protection from the earth god, but rather something that caused the spirit to see them as enemies. Our hero and Cradle believe the treasure is the true cause of the attack. With a serious look, Raven grips his sword. The spirit watches him with its mouth open. Our hero approaches, making Circilian fear for the young noble's safety. The water turtle opens its mouth wider as he gets closer, but Raven shows his sword and tells the bean to calm down, which has no effect, forcing our hero to become more commanding. The sword once again emits the glow of the dragon's power, causing the water spirit to vanish in an explosion, which leaves Carta and Cradle stunned, while our hero ends up soaked from the constant, thin stream of falling water. Raven slowly opens his eyes, seeing the treasure in the water, a red shield with the symbol of the white dragon. The relic is pulled from the water. Circilian gets excited about the shield, asking if it's the treasure, a marvelous piece of equipment that can heal the user's wound and those of soldiers. Raffle congratulates him for making the spirits retreat, and asks if that's what Raven meant about the power in the sword. Looking at the sword, our hero says, "I don't know why I felt something and it just happened." York simply listened to what's being said, but Cradle comments that Raven doesn't look well, while Carter laughs and says it's the power of the Forest Guardian, making Circilian complain that everything belongs to the Pendragon. Our hero agrees that Soldrake's power is the power of the Pendragon, meaning it's not his own power. The memories of Aaron crying as he sees his father return reservist, irritating our hero, prompting him to affirm to himself who he really is. They finally reach a white stone bridge that leads to the mausoleum. Circilian says they finally arrived. The mausoleum is pure white, adorned with multiple statues of white dragons, all resembling its guardian. The group approaches the doors of the mausoleum. At that moment, the sword begins to glow, catching Circilian's attention. Raven draws the sword, confirming that this is indeed the mausoleum. The tip of the weapon emits a blue light, which opens the doors, releasing a great amount of mist. This surprises everyone but leaves Carter confused. Raven notices something approaching through the mist. Our hero shouts something's coming. Horse hooves surrounded by blue energy emerged from the mist, finally revealing what Raven saw. The orcs are surprised by what appears. Circilian seems to recognize it and is astonished, as is Raven, who identifies it, saying the name Gordon, a knight and his horse made of pure energy. Gordon Pendragon removes his helmet before everyone. Harda recognizes the knight guarding the mausoleum gate, predecessor of House Pendragon. Circilian is stunned to see his former lord. Raven knows it's a ghost because of the translucent body, but he wonders why he knows this man's name. That causes Aaron's memories to return once again, irritating our hero while he complains about them. The knight raises his sword high, firing a blue beam into the sky. It explodes above like a flare, blinding everyone for a moment. Raven slowly regains his vision and is surprised when he looks up. Silhouette of a dragon approaches with the moon behind, leaving the knights speechless at the sight. Wings as white as marble, the orcs are stunned by its power. Golden horns and a flowing mane, frightening Tata and Kazal, who cling to each other, eyes like sapphires that can see everything, making Raiden smile and say, "You finally showed up." The mighty guardian of the mausoleum and Akona Forest Soldrake. The dragon begins to descend from the sky, until it finally lands behind the ghost, protecting it with its tail and blocking the path to the mausoleum. Circilian praises the dragon's beauty. Yorks remain amazed to finally see the guardian entity. Raven stares at the dragon in silence, and the dragon returns the gaze with dignity. But a voice interrupts, asking, "Who are you?" finally catching our hero off guard. Noticing that the ghost of Gordon is watching him, Circilian is surprised to hear the voice of his old lord. But Carter doesn't believe it because he's a ghost. Our hero remembers that voice. He heard it when he first met Aaron Pendragon on the Loctane Plains. He's sure it's the same voice from that day. It doesn't belong to the young Pendragon. It's not Gordon's either. The one who spoke that day was Soldrake. It was the dragon who spoke to Raven that day. And once again it asks you, "Who are you?" No one understands. So they all look at our hero. Raven immediately replies that he is Aaron Pendragon. Soldrake observes and approaches the young noble, frightening Circilian and Carta. The dragon replies that he is not Pendragon, and that they can't fool his eyes. Staring at our hero, the guardian says, "I'll ask one more time now," with a more intimidating voice. Leaving Raiden shaken, it asks, "Who are you?" This makes our hero recall his worst day. Endless moments of fighting and the betrayal of the captain, making him scream, to the point of collapsing to his knees on the ground, holding his own head, making Circilian worry. Raven feels such pain it seems like his head is going to split open. The pain leaves him able to ask himself only one question. Who am I? The pain doesn't stop, forcing Raven to press his head to the ground. Sir Killian and Carter grow worried, seeing the young noble suffering. Soldrake asks again, who are you? Making our hero break into a cold sweat from the pain. His memories resurfaced once more. The burning of House Fault. Raven feels like the memories are flowing non-stop. From the day the demonic special forces arrive. Memories our hero doesn't want to see. The battle against the powerful ORC. The moment he saw Soldrake and Aaron Pendragon for the first time. The execution of a noble from House Pendragon. Making Raiden question why the dragon is showing these. Commander Balti revealing the whole truth before being executed. Soldrake continues to stare at our hero and asks again. Now closer, tell me, who are you? Raven tries to answer, but is once again hit by memories where a couple smiles at a newborn, leaving our hero confused. The Duke's wife Lady Elaine. The Duke himself Gordon. Smiling, that smiling baby. Raven concludes that's me, but quickly denies it upon seeing the child playing with Sir Kilvin, showing something to his sister. That's not our hero, it's Aaron. A young boy crying at his father's bedside. The end of Duke Gordon, which confirms something to Raven. The painting the young Aaron paints saddened in a dark library. Those memories belong to Aaron Pendragon. The revelation makes our hero sick, to the point of spitting up a red substance on the ground, alarming the orcs and Sir Kilvin, as they see Raven collapse on the ground. Dragon speaks again, say your name. Our hero starts to stutter. I am Raven Vault. At that moment, more memories surface. Aaron Pendragon. The moment he woke up and saw Lindsay, the maid, the first time he saw Aaron and Mia. Lady Elena crying with worry over her son's departure. His arrival at the fortress alongside Lindsay. Tada and Kazul always fearful. The fierce battle against the ORC and Konakarta. When he destroyed the bandits alongside the Pendragon Knights. Raven is now certain of who owns the memories, saying, "They're my memories." Crackle. Casting his spell against the skeletons. A simple conversation after the battle caused by a nightmare. Marching alongside everyone through the cave are our heroes. Most recent memories. Raven regains consciousness upon hearing his adventuring companions, calling him Sir Killian. Even terrified, commands the soldiers to protect their lord. Karta decides to fight the dragon and save his friend, but is stopped by Kratos, who questions his intent to face the guardian. Raven slowly awakens and begins to rise, saying, I am surprised. The dragon continues to observe. Our hero drives his sword into the ground to use as support, and declares to Sodric's face, the rightful heir to the Pendragon Duchy. Still injured, he proclaims himself Aaron Pendragon. The dragon continues to observe. Our hero studies himself with all the strength he has, facing the guardian of the mausoleum. Gordon remains serious but then smiles and begins to fade away. Our hero wonders if the ghost has disappeared. At that moment, Soldrake looks to the sun and lets out a thunderous roar that echoes throughout the area, sending humans flying while the orcs cover their ears. All the knights fall to the ground, but Karta and Cradle remain standing. Solderic approaches our hero and begins to speak. Our oath is complete, Aaron Pendragon, and Raven Vault as someone who will succeed the Pendragons. The dragon finishes, leaving the new Duke relieved. This news makes his companions excited and relieved. Sir Killian tells our hero, you did it. Our hero says he's fine and that they don't need to worry, leaving Sir Killian confused. Raven, still exhausted, says the pact has been made and that Soldrake has chosen him. For a moment everyone is confused, and when they finally understand what was said, they begin to celebrate. Sir Killian celebrates more than anyone, because the pact was made and the Pendragon's future is secure. Gradle is impressed and says, our hero is now the guardian of the forest, and Card agrees since the noble defeated the orcs. Soldrake once again looks to the sky, leaving Raven curious about what the dragon is doing. Our hero looks up too and asks what's going on, and is informed that beings are approaching. Raven tries to see what Soldrake is seeing. Vault wonders if they are birds, upon seeing 6 creatures approaching from the sky, but he quickly realizes they are not birds, which surprises him. Everyone is frightened and in disbelief at the approaching creatures. They are dragons of different colors. The 6 monsters fly in a circle above where Raven and Soldrake stand. Our hero cannot believe what he sees. 6 dragons, each one a different color: purple, green, blue, gold. red and black that land around everyone present. Tada and Kazel are even more terrified because of this. Raven still doesn't understand what's happening. A voice asks, "Is this your new partner, Queen?" Our hero is startled by the voice and turns toward it. The black dragon is the one who asked. Soul Drake responds that yes, and asks what Huld is doing in her lands without invitation, since they have nothing to do with the pact. But the green dragon states that this time it does concern them. The guardian turns to Elegrian, who continues speaking, saying they are there because they must be and that she knows why. But Soul Drake replies that she owes no explanation, causing the dragons to back off a bit. Hult argues, saying it's not just your energy that this human is emitting. Raven doesn't understand upon hearing that. He emits the energy of both the dragon god and the demon god. However, Soul Drake becomes enraged and roars at the black dragon. The knights are once again thrown back and the dragons retreat in fear. Soul Drake glares at the black dragon, finally ordering all the dragons to leave her territory, saying that this is the Queen of Dragons' command. Our hero is surprised to hear that Soul Drake is the queen. Exchanging glances, the dragons agree and begin to fly away one by one. Before departing, Hult warns, "We are leaving. When the Pendragon comes to our lands, we will still doubt him." Our hero watches the black dragon begin to fly. At last all those dragons depart, flying toward the starry sky. Carter is confused by what just happened. Kazel says it felt like they were having a conversation, and Cradle explains that only those equal to dragons, or those who made a pact, can hear their voices. Raven realizes that only he could hear the conversation, and notices that Soul Drake's voice changed after the pact. But there's something more important. There are many things he doesn't know, like the 6 dragons, the dragon god and the demon god, and perhaps the white dragon. The Queen of Dragons holds the answers he seeks, why he was reborn as Aaron. Our hero looks at Soul Drake and calls her. He says there's something he wants to ask, but first asks her to lower herself a bit because his neck hurt. The queen thinks for a moment and says she has a better solution. Flames engulf the white dragon, surprising our hero and Cradle. Sodric's body begins to disappear, prompting Cercilian to ask, "What is happening?" A burst of white light appears in place of the dragon. For a few moments it blinds everyone. As the glow fades, they all look up. Not seeing the dragon, Raven is surprised and calls out to her, who responds by asking, "Where are you looking?" Raven doesn't understand and looks in the direction of the voice. From the flames emerge human legs and a blue dress with a golden hem, finally revealing a woman with white hair and white dragon wings. Soul Drake in human form touches the ground and looks toward Raven, finally saying, "I'm right here." Everyone is shocked by the transformation and questions whether she really is the white dragon. On the woman's forehead are 3 blue gems. She wears a beautiful blue and white dress with golden details. The dragon's colors, powerful draconic wings, extend from her back. Soul Drake's human form radiates nobility and beauty with her new body. She asks if they should continue the conversation, since Raven had a question. Everyone is surprised by the transformation and questions whether she really is the white dragon. A horse walks slowly down the road. The Pendragon party continues its journey, with our hero and Soul Drake at the front. Hart asks Cercilian to go to the noble, to find out what they are discussing. The knight asks why he should go and says, if the orc wants to know, he should go himself. Crathel explains that orcs and Ancona cannot approach the forest guardian without permission. Cercilian says that even if he got close, they wouldn't understand anything, because they can't hear Soul Drake's voice. And for some reason they also can't hear our hero's voice. Cercilian becomes curious, wanting to know how a dragon can become human. Still curious, they continue to follow Raven and Soul Drake. The knight says she's beautiful, but the orc doesn't understand. And Cradle explains that as orcs, they can't comprehend, and that when those eyes look their way, it makes them freeze. Our hero continues the conversation with Soul Drake, asking why those dragons were angry about the pact, and what the discussion was about. But she replies that only time will tell. Our hero falls silent because of the cryptic answer. With that, he asks about Raven's memories and says that must mean she noticed the strange circumstances of her own end, along with Aaron and what was said. Our hero finally asks if she knows anything, and why he was revived as the Pendragon. Soul Drake replies about that time will also tell. That same answer irritates Raven. He starts complaining that all he gets is the same answer, and that she never says anything important. but the dragon says he's been talking to her for quite a while. It's very strange for a pendragon to want to talk to me so much, says Soul Drake, leaving our hero speechless once again and irritated, thinking he would get answers because he made the pact, but he can't understand what's wrong with the dragon. But a sound catches his attention. A huge snake strikes at Raven, surprising Sir Killian and Carter because of the monster's size. Our hero draws his sword, but Soul Drake defeats the monster with just one hand, leaving everyone incredulous at how easily she beat the creature. She's fast, thinks our hero. Soul Drake begins eating the defeated monster, causing Tada and Kazel to tremble in fear. The orcs become tense, and Sir Killian says that even though she's beautiful, she's not human, she only has the appearance of one. It's rather hard to believe. Raven shows no reaction to what the dragon is doing. At the camp, the tents are set up and the shaman keeps watch. Soul Drake watches the night sky, sitting in a tree when called. She looks to see what it is, noticing Raven holding an animal he has just hunted. Our hero begins cleaning the kill, separating the good meat to eat. Soul Drake watches as Raven cooks the food over the fire. The ribs slowly turn golden as the fat drips into the flames. When the meat is finally ready, Raven hands it to the dragon, who only stares at it, not understanding anything. Our hero teaches her how a human eats. Since Soul Drake is in human form, the dragon watches and begins to imitate Raven eating the meat calmly. Soul Drake comments that he really is a strange pendragon, but our hero says he is a pendragon and who is also Raven. Silence takes over the place. It is broken only by Raiden taking flight and calling in the distance. Raven says even if I told others such things, they wouldn't understand a word I'm saying. Changing the subject, our hero says he used to eat like this a lot in the past, and asks if it's good. The dragon is left speechless and interrupts saying Saul, just as Raven says he wants to ask again. He doesn't understand what Saul Brick means, but with a smile, the dragon says that from now on he should call her Saul. This surprises Raven, seeing her smile. I never thought dragons could smile. Our hero thinks, however. He returns to the question about the dragon god and the demon god. Soul Drake replies that only time will tell regarding that, leaving Raven irritated once more. A long line of maids waits for our hero's return. After the proclamation that he came back with the dragon, Lindsay runs, along with Lady Elaine and her daughters, to the front counter, happy about Raiden's victory and safe return. The maid is relieved to know he returns safely. After seeing him leave for Barrent, the crowd shouts he's here. Lord Aaron slowly, our heroes in turrets parades toward the castle, but Lindaisy, Aaron, and Mia take notice and find it strange. Kazel and Tada are with the knights. The orcs smile at the crowd's excitement and Soul Drake flies above. Raven Melbourne asks why there are demons with the knights, and who the winged woman is. Lady Elaine stammers that woman, Raven, draws everyone's attention and announces that the Pendragons have won, and that from now on the dragon will be with them again. But no one understands, not seeing Soul Drake. The gem on Saul's forehead shines, causing her wings to grow rapidly. White flames rise to the sky, lighting up the area. Everyone who sees it is shocked. As from the flames, the majestic dragon appears. Roaring people shout the dragon's name and prepare a feast. Fireworks explode in the skies above the castle. Nobles eat and chat at a fancy party. A man gives a piano performance. Ladies enjoy the melody played by a musician on his lute. Lindaisy comments that it's her first time at a grand festival, and Lady Erin replies it's to celebrate the pact with the dragon. Influential merchants and lords from neighboring lands are attending the celebration. The maid asks where our hero is. In a castle corridor. Raven looks at Soul Drake sitting on the windowsill, who asks if he doesn't want to go to the banquet, but Soul asks if whether he's Aaron or Vault. Hasn't he already said enough to her? Leaving our hero confused, while Soul Drake questions whether as a Pendragon he shouldn't be busy at the banquet. Raven remarks that greeting guests is complicated, and is surprised to see how much the dragon knows about human society. Saul says she's been with the Pendragons for a long time, but has never heard of a dragon attending a banquet. Our hero asks why, since the dragon can take human form. That catches Soul Drake off guard, and she concludes that Raven is very different from the old Pendragons. Suddenly the dragon takes flight, leaving our hero behind. As she flies off into the distance, keeps watching, until he hears something and turns around. He sees several young ladies approaching quickly, wanting to talk and learn more about the pact with the dragon, a situation that makes him tense. Lindsay apologizes for the delay in delivering food to a noble, who praises her and asks if she'd like to be his. The maid chuckles awkwardly at the offer, until she hears the voices of women looking up. She sees her lord surrounded by young ladies, who try to get his attention by showing off their talents, and praising his battle with Carta. One of them introduces herself as Mabel of House Goldman, affiliated with the Chamber of Commerce, and a noble woman scolds her for being a merchant. Not nobility, however. The young merchant says her house carries the empire's economy on its back, and asks if the noble can sell mithril jewelry. The two ladies start arguing. Because of that, the topic annoys our hero. Lindsay sees her lord stepping away from the arguing women. Raven understands that each of them just wants to align with the Pendragons, and that he shouldn't let it bother him. But then a loud voice calls someone a weak human. Carter has defeated Sir Killian, who cannot compete with an orc, while Mia claims to Tata, watching Cradle's magic animate her stuffed toy. Raven calmly watches it all unfold. York calls him over to celebrate and show the humans' tenacity, while the knight tries to stop him, making our hero smile and brighten up. Lindsay notices the difference in Ryden's mood between the noble ladies and the loud orcs, much happier among those simple and brutish monsters. The party ends and the castle falls into silence. Lindsay helps Raven walk to his room as he has a headache. Our hero apologizes for the trouble, but the maid says it's all right. Smiling, she says, "Seeing you enjoy yourself after so long, ever since your father passed, makes me happy." That leaves Raven without much to say. But our hero quickly changes the subject, and asks what his mother is doing up so late. And Lindsay says she thought it was just a custom. The maid opens the door, revealing young ladies lined up in 2 rows waiting with smiles, some more timid and others more seductive. Raven is confused by what he sees, prompting his mother to ask if he liked any of them. Our hero is surprised to see his mother there, who says, "Now that you've made the pact with the dragon, you must produce an heir." Lady Elaine says, "This is the duty of a Pendragon," and tells Ryden to choose one to bear his child. The news in order hit our hero like a bomb. Still doesn't understand what's happening. Still confused, he asks if he really has to choose one of them as a wife. While the young ladies await his answer, Lady Elaine confirms, saying it's the duty of a Pendragon, that this is an old tradition. After forming the pact with the dragon, neighboring nobles send women to produce an heir. She explains that originally it would have been Lady Luna, but since the engagement was broken off, he must choose one of the young women. Aaron cries because of how tragically the engagement ended. Raven wonders if that's really how it happened. However, his sister quickly cheers up, telling our hero to calm down, because today, he'll be able to choose someone from a family on par with the Seards. The first to step forward is Crescentia, who says she inherited the genes of the first emperor, and thus has noblest blood than even the royal family. The other ladies introduce themselves, one saying she is the daughter of the imperial general, and that violence is the greatest power in the world, while Mabel says that money is everything. The noblewomen start arguing again, saying a merchant shouldn't even be there. Raven frowns, showing irritation. His mother tries to speak, but is interrupted by the Duke's question. Does he have to choose someone in the room? Lady Elaine doesn't understand, but her son agrees if it has to be someone in the room. The Duchess says that's the Pendragon custom, and our hero says he understands, and chooses Lindsay to be his concubine. This surprises his mother and sister, as well as the ladies still arguing among themselves. The maid looks at her master bewildered. Everyone questions him, confused. Even Lindsay, who was about to scream his silence. Raven tells her to calm down because she's always taken care of him, even when he returned from the expedition covered in filth, and that he was captivated by her courage, leading him to make a mistake he now needs to take responsibility for. But the maid is embarrassed by his words. Our hero apologizes for never saying anything before, leaving everyone speechless. Even so, his mother says it's fine because he's a man, but that the true meaning of the tradition is to maintain the stability and continuation of the Pendragon family. Our hero says he understands, but then looks compassionately at the young ladies, saying, "They only appeared after hearing he made the pact with the dragon. The moment I succeeded they came to us, but during hard times they never once wanted to join hands with us," says Raven seriously. But Lindsay was with him for 3 years without any ulterior motives. This leaves the poor maid completely lost, unsure what to say or do, and red with embarrassment from what she hears. The ladies try to argue that she's just a servant, but Raven says that doesn't matter to him. Those who rely on the honor of their houses are just fools, leaving the women devastated. Lady Elaine and Aaron are shocked. Our hero says he already has companions, like Sir Killian and his soldiers, who have supported them all this time, as well as the Akana orcs, even the goblin Kazul and the harpy Tata. Raven says they followed him into the mausoleum without hesitation, earning his trust holding his mother's hand. Our hero asks if the Pendragons haven't grown weak by relying on these alliances. This makes Lady Elaine and Aaron happy. Lindy C. also smiles happy and embarrassed, but again, she's surprised when our hero asks if she accepts being his concubine. Stammering and trembling, the maid accepts. Raven takes the opportunity to announce that from now on, the servant Lindsay will become the wife of the Pendragon. What a magnificent spectacle, says a voice. Hesia appears once again to speak after the commotion, saying she only ever saw Raven as a rough soldier, and asks if those were his true intentions. Our hero sighs at being bothered again, and asks how she's still here, if the mausoleum has already been opened. Acha replies that she just wanted to see the face of her descendant one last time before departing. Ita says he's changed since the first time she saw him. She also says moving forward without alliances will be difficult this time, but Raven says he has a plan. This makes the ghost curious. There are many people who want to invest in the Pendragons, now that they've regained the power of the dragon, and our hero wants the people who will become heroes in the future. The idea surprises Asia. Our hero says that if he can earn their loyalty, while they're still unknown, then he can build a powerful army. The ghost seems to understand that if he has that. Hugging him with joy, Asia concludes that he wants the throne. Raven asks her not to touch him, but laughing she asks if she can hug him, which annoys him. Asia lets go, saying she's just joking and that she has no more regrets. After thinking a bit, Raven says that 6 dragons appeared while making the pact, surprising the ghost, who asks if it's true. Our hero shares what the black dragon said about the dragon god and the demon god, that from the conversation, it seems there's a reason he was reborn as Aaron. Balti also said that everything was connected. Atias says it's the first time she's heard of such a thing, and asks if Soldrake said anything. Raven, irritated, says the only thing she said was that time would tell. You're really getting along with her, says the ghost. Our hero doesn't understand, but she says he called the dragon by her nickname. Raven explains that Soldrake asked him to, and that she's the only one that he can talk about, but he stops speaking when he notices, surprised, that Asia is slowly disappearing. Raven tries to understand what's happening. I have to go now, says the former Pendragon, crying. Our hero panics at the situation. Theus says it doesn't matter whether it's Aaron's goal or Raven's, but she believes he will reach it. With tears in her eyes, she calls him my dear Pendragon, touching Raven's face with tenderness, who immediately calls her grandmother while hugging her tightly, leaving Hia surprised, who soon smiles, hugging him back, asking him to continue from now on as Aaron Pendragon. And as Raven vault, finally disappearing and leaving our hero alone, he says he will definitely do what she asked. Lindsay marries our hero, which is announced to everyone at night. Raven is sitting on his bed. Saul says, so you chose that girl. Appearing standing at the bedroom window, Raven notices her arrival and looks at Soldrake, and asks if she knew the reason behind the banquet. Saul answers that she did and asks why he chose the servant. Our hero says it would be complicated for him to act, due to the obligations of an arranged marriage, and that he doesn't care who bears him in hair. Soldrake understands that he's not interested in the servant. Raven says he trusts her because she cared for Aaron for 3 years, but quickly asks, where were you? You flew off out of nowhere. Saul simply replies, making our hero ask about the place. Soldrake says that behind the castle, there's a cliff with a dragon statue. That's where she lived before the pact with the Pendragons. Raven asks if staying there isn't boring. But for the dragon it's the same as anywhere else, because no one can hear her voice except Lord Pendragon. Our hero affirms. Soldrake says she never spoke with the Pendragons until now, not even with Gordon or his ancestor Klein. Raven is surprised to hear that, since they never wanted the dragon to take this form. She chose to respect them and always stayed in Re. Our hero remembers what AGI said about getting along with Saul Drake. The memory of when Saul said he talks too much for a Pendragon, her lonely silhouette in the tree, and when she said she wouldn't go to the banquet because no one could hear her, makes Raven realize she's been alone for centuries. Saul Drake says it doesn't matter who he is, because he is her contractor. Our hero says he can't get used to the way she calls him. He adds that she can call him whatever she wants, except contractor Saul is surprised by this. She decides she'll call him Ray. Raven did not expect to hear that name, remembering when he was called that. Still young and happy, it makes him fall silent, reminded of someone important. His brother who used to call him that in the past. Saul asks if our hero didn't like it. Raven smiles and says he does, and that she can call him that from now on. Saul Drake is surprised but quickly smiles, saying he truly is different from the other Pendragons so far. They both smile at each other. That makes Saul Drake think of Alec, the first Pendragon I met, remembering that her promise will finally be fulfilled. A bird flies through the skies with a pouch, carrying papers bearing the name Pendragon. Messenger Hawk spreads the papers, declaring that the Pendragons have once again formed a pact with the dragon, announcing the feat across the empire. Someone reads the news and comments that it's a good thing. A warrior says the Pendragon's territory is vast, but they have only 5 knights, while the other hopes to gain land and a noble title. They both turn around and ask a young man what he thinks about a quiet and enigmatic person who only reveals his eyes. A port city with large ships. In his office, a man focuses on the issue of monsters, especially the Acna orcs who accompanied the noble Pendragon, which makes him very interested in our hero. The Sarads are shocked that Raven managed to form the pact. The Duke fears they'll be seen as fools because of the broken engagement, leaving his daughter worried about her father who can't even sleep. Lady Luna still thinks of Raven. Purple flame appears from someone's fingers. It lights up the paper reporting the Pendragon House's achievement. A strange man smiles, saying it's for a world they want to create. The mage who summoned the flames also says, "For the world we want to create," and burns the announcement paper. They both say together, "You're a nuisance." The flames consume the entire paper. A bearded man who will take care of it. The mysterious people smile at what is said. "I was waiting for you to say that. Mad dog of the Empire and the commander of demonic forms." To Ven Baltai the mage concludes, making the commander grin maniacally. Lindsay greets our hero dressed in white like a noblewoman. He thanks her, but she asks where he's going today. Raven says he's heading to Barrent to recruit soldiers. The fortress near the Icona forest. Sir Killian shouts that it's only been an hour. Everyone's tired and asks where all their energy went. The recruits are exhausted from so much training, but the knight says if they keep going like this, they won't become Pendragon knights, which pushes the new soldiers to continue. Raiden congratulates Sir Killian and asks how the newcomers are doing. He reports that the recruits want to be knights, but the way they are now, it's all just talk. Our hero says it's the first time he's hired so many, so it's only natural to want the best, and comments that it's Sir Killian's job as captain of the cavalry to motivate the recruits, and that makes him smile with pride. The knight begins to encourage the recruits, saying, "Even if you have to crawl, follow my instructions and you'll become Pendragon cavalry." But the men grow irritated with Sir Killian, who's truly good at this despite having lost to the Lord. The days have been repetitive, with the newcomers causing trouble over their desire to join the cavalry. Yet, what Baltai and the Black Dragon said still lingers in Raven's mind. Dragon and demon gods and how everything is connected. Not knowing what tricks the enemy may use, our hero knows he must improve the cavalry. Even Cart helps with training, though bored, so they'll be prepared for the battle ahead. Raven looks toward the wall where flying monsters gather. They cluster near Saul Drake. The griffins serve as Saul's henchmen, who abandoned Ree and now lives with our hero, who seems to be enjoying herself more. Our hero is deep in thought as he watches Saul Drake. Saul senses something approaching. Immediately she calls for our protagonist, who asks what's wrong. The knights are arriving, Saul Drake reports. Sir Killian meets the 3 men at the gate. One wears no shirt, the second is in full armor, and the third is the mysterious young man who had spoken on the road. The recruits say they're the unaffiliated knights, people who love their weapons and travel the world. Very experienced, explains one of the newcomers. Upon seeing they'd come to join the house, Sir Killian introduces himself as captain of the White Dragon Knights, then asks who the visitors are. The first to introduce himself is Reed Pollock, an unaffiliated knight from a vandal seeking a lord worth following. Burial Luton, the Bald One, says he's looking for worthy opponents to fight, whether in battle or just sparring. The mysterious man says nothing, but Sir Killian questions him to speak about himself. Without making eye contact, he says he won't reveal his name to the knight. This irritates the cavalry captain. Barrio laughs and tells him not to worry, because that man is always like that, and even they don't know his name. Reed explains that they're together because they share the same fate. The recruits don't like this, and Sir Killian asks if they're there to serve the house. They respond that people say the Pendragons don't have a commander in their cavalry, and that they're here to gain fame and fortune, while strengthening the cavalry. Both continue bragging that they're there to save them from being weak, and that there's no need to keep training rookies, wounding the pride of the recruits and Sir Killian. They become truly irritated. Raven says they're not wrong. Unaffiliated knights, who rely on nothing but themselves and their own strength, aren't wrong to act this way. Sir Killian is confused by what his lord is saying, but Raven adds only if they are truly strong, which is why he orders his knight to duel. The two of them excited. Sir Killian accepts the command. Barrio is the first to duel, laughing as he faces Sir Killian. The recruits notice that the knight's opponent is huge and looks really strong. They face each other and begin the duel. However, Sir Killian defeats his opponent with just a quick move. Barrio feels pain in his hand and starts sweating cold. Reed doesn't understand what just happened, but he is then challenged. The unaffiliated knight feels the pressure. Sir Killian swiftly attacks, but is blocked by the opponent's sword, who begins to lose in the clash of strength. As he loses control, unable to keep his focus, Reed is disarmed, losing the duel to Sir Killian. The recruits cheer for the Pendragon Knight's victory, only now realizing his strength and skill. Sir Killian asks if the strength of the two opponents is good, and our hero says they're short on soldiers, so he accepts them. The mysterious man shows no reaction. Raven asks if he wants to try, but the warrior says he's not interested. Sir Killian is surprised to see that the stranger was rude to the lord. Our hero doesn't mind and asks the name of the mysterious man, who responds, "I'm not interested in telling you." This makes Sir Killian explode, yelling at him furiously. He grabs the warrior's tunic and scolds him for being insolent. With the Duke, the strange man simply throws the knight to the ground. With an odd arm movement, this shocks everyone present. Even Sir Killian doesn't understand what just happened. The recruits ask what's going on after seeing the captain thrown down, but our hero smiles, knowing that the strange man is truly strong. For that reason, he wants him in his cavalry. Still, that warrior remains entirely expressionless. Sir Killian watches the man, still silent, and continues getting irritated. But Raven stops him. Our hero draws one of his swords, finally gaining the warrior's attention, saying it's his turn to fight now. A breeze blows, creating a tense atmosphere. The man asks, "You want to fight me?" You making Raven ask if he feels uncomfortable being the sparring partner of the young prince. The man falls silent again. Our hero points his sword at the warrior, saying, "This is a duel," as pointing the sword to the opponent's head is the duel sign of the Knights of Valvas. This finally makes the man show some reaction. Sir Killian is surprised while a recruit asks who those knights are. A long time ago in the south, where many countries were close together, it was a place of constant war, and the cavalry from that region was called Vallis Cavalier. Due to the harsh environment, they became powerful warriors with the strength of 1,000. Soldiers do not fear death and are sharp blades for their lords, but they are only spoken of in rumors, says Sir Killian, who has never seen one before. The knight wonders how our hero knows of their customs, and who that man is, but Raven discovered it from just one glance, from his appearance, accent, and the swords the warrior carries. Our hero remembers fighting one in the south, during his time in the Demon Special Forces. This man is just like a Valva's knight. He carries a mace and a shield on his saddle, as well as a crossbow, indicating he is used to fighting in all circumstances. Raven says, "A Vallis Cavalier will never bow to anyone except their master. Not even the Emperor can make those knights lower their heads, as they are too proud of their strength and techniques." Our hero asks the warrior if he is here looking for a master. He replies that he is there because he was guided by the stars, and doesn't care who Raven is. The two unaffiliated knights are confused about the stars. They only followed the warrior because they gave him water. The valves are people of the sea, and celestial navigation and freshwater are essential. The warrior becomes curious. Upon hearing that his astrology was correct, our hero says he was guided there to him. The Lord Pendragon Raven looks into the valve's knight's eyes and says, "And you know it finally." The man begins to speak as he draws one of his swords, saying that for a Valis knight, things like status, money, bloodlines, and that nonsense have no value. The warrior finally holds both his swords, long and short, unsheathed and without emotion, says that if Raven wants him, he'll have to put his life on the line, and if he loses he'll be executed. Our hero assumes a battle stance, replying that he knows how fights with Valva's knights work. The recruits cheer upon seeing that the Lord is going to duel. Reed notices Raven's natural stance. Burio finds it strange that the noble is using a sword, like the ones common soldiers wield. Our hero initiates the clash with a swift sword strike, surprising Sir Killian with his lord's speed. The warrior simply thinks it's a slow attack. He easily blocks with a short sword. With a flick of his wrist, he traps Raven's weapon and effortlessly forces our hero's sword to the ground. Maintaining his rhythm, the warrior uses the long sword to strike at Lord Pendragon. Raven quickly dodges the attack, surprising his opponent with the speed of his evasion. Our hero immediately counterattacks, taking advantage of the knight's lowered guard. However, both end up injured. The knight gets a scratch on his chest and Raiden a cut on his face. Both warriors exchange frenzied blows, only pausing for a moment. All spectators are left speechless by the duel. Reed can't understand what happened because it was too fast, and one of the recruits asks, "Sir Killian, what happened?" But the captain can't answer. Raven says the attack nearly hit him, and that the technique usually works against dual wielders, revealing that the knight first used the short sword to throw him off balance, then struck while dodging. If our hero hadn't managed to evade at that moment, he would have been executed. So he praises the knight's strength. The warrior simply assesses his opponent, questions whether Raven is really just a spoiled noble. He replies that they are the same, having executed many beings from demons to people. The knight listens without showing any emotion. Raven continues saying he never killed indiscriminately, only to survive, which makes the warrior ask if that's true. Our hero says he senses the same scent coming from the Valvas, who initially doesn't react, but soon smiles wildly, raising both swords slowly, making the onlookers tense about what's coming. With his swords crossed in front of him, the knight makes Raven understand that now the real fight begins. Our hero calls him the nameless Balbus, the berserker knight, who smiles while adopting an aggressive battle stance, and Work lets out a sleepy yawn. He complains that he can't nap because of the noise, and is informed by the shaman that it seems a fight is going on. Both monsters approach to see what the humans are doing. Carter and Kratos are surprised by what they see, while Mia seems startled. They see our hero in a frenzied duel against an unknown man. Reagan blocks a strike from the Valva's knight. The warrior pays close attention to our hero's sword. He must be especially cautious against the opponent's weapons. Cradle is curious upon seeing someone as skilled as Raven, and asks who that human is. Sir Killian replies that he'd like to know too. Our hero attacks the knight again, who blocks immediately with his sword, but is caught off guard by Raven's movement. Burial exclaims it's a feint, while Sir Killian cheers with excitement. The swords clash in the air. The Valis knight manages to block the feint with his long sword, making Sir Killian worry about the warrior's second sword. Smiling, our hero's rival launches an attack, saying, "This is the end." Even so, Raven dodges the strike with a somersault after a jump, landing behind the skilled warrior, who immediately turns to follow. Our hero delivers an attack that the Valis knight easily dodges. As soon as Raven touches the ground, his rival charges with an attack. With an analytical gaze, the noble knows it's going to come from the right. The warrior raises his long sword for the strike. Sir Killian notices the feat taking place, a blow with a short sword coming from the left, making him shout that the real attack is coming from the left. Vart blocks the strike with his sword, but Carter notices something went wrong. He says the real attack is from the right. Seeing the warrior aiming his long sword at his opponent's unguarded side, Raven quickly grabs the knight's arm, stopping the attack from happening. Smiling, our hero says his opponent is good. The knight smiles as well, complimenting his opponent for being good too. Raven notices the rival's footwork. A low blow worries him. He tries to defend with his leg, but it was a feint and our hero is swept off his feet, losing balance even while falling. He praises the opponent for the tactic used. Raven supports himself with one hand on the ground to stay balanced. The Valis Knight thrust forward, but our hero surprises him by throwing himself away, just in time to dodge the attack. After dodging, he quickly kicks the back of the warrior's knee, putting them on equal ground once again. Raven resumes attacking, but the knight blocks with both swords crossed. The two engage in a clash of strength while staring at each other. Everyone watches the flurry of blows. And now the deadlock Reed is stunned by the battle. While Burial doesn't know who the real monster is, Cradle laughs and asks if Carta could win against that human. But the ORC says nothing. Sir Killian is relieved he didn't fight that warrior. Raven asks if he should teach his opponent the weakness of jewel wielding. The warrior asks what the weakness is. Our hero brings his fist close to his own chest, then throws sand at the knight. Caught off guard, he can't defend himself. The orcs are also surprised. Harda says that when our hero fell, he grabbed the sand. The knight is hit in the eyes, which makes him leap back trying to gain distance. But Raven uses the moment to attack his rival with his guard open. The warrior realizes the situation and drops his short sword, allowing him to dodge the attack just in time, leaving our hero surprised. Sir Killian can't believe the quick decision. Alcarda thinks it was fatigue until he senses something bad. The ORC mourns that it's a right-side attack, and that Raven must counter the knight's long sword strike. Our hero makes a smooth yet fast sword movement, managing to deliver a checkmate with the opponent frozen. As he sees no way out and no chance of landing his own strike, the knights are astonished by what happened, as are the orcs watching in surprise. Panting, the warrior feels the blade at his neck, leaving him stunned. Raven says that without that sword, he would have lost because Valva's knights are truly strong. Speechless, the rival keeps listening. Without saying a word, our hero states that the sword has saved his life many times before. Still shocked, the man finally lets his weapon fall to the ground, then kneels before our hero, praising Raven for being a true warrior, and revealing he is a Valis cavalier. His name is Elkin Isla. I swear loyalty and that I will be your sword to defeat your enemies, says the knight, leaving our hero stunned. Sir Killian and the recruits celebrate the Pendragon Lord's victory. Raven can't believe that person was Elkin Isla. Our hero repeats the knight's name, leaving the recruits curious if that man is famous. But Sir Killian, Reed and Barrio don't know him, but maybe Lord Pendragon does. Raven remembers that the warrior was known as Stormbringer, the most powerful knight of Valva's in his past life. Now in the future, Elkin will be known as the Dragon King of the south part of the Duchy of Oranges. With his name spreading across the empire, our hero gets excited, knowing that the Valis Knight is a nobody for now, but will become one of the great heroes. Raven kneels before the warrior, surprising him, leaving the knights equally confused. Our hero asks Isla to lift his head. Raven looks into the warrior's eyes and says, the only difference between them is the role they play. One is the lord, the other his sword. Smiling, our hero says he wants him to be his companion, just like the others, revealing the orc's Tada. Sir Killian and Khazal Alkan is confused by this, but soon smiles, saying our hero is interesting. Red in Barrio comment that maybe Raven will conquer the world, and that they'll follow him. But Sir Killian says no one said they would be Pendragon's companions. Saul asks if the duel is over. While descending from the wall beside, the griffins Reed and Burio are surprised by what they see. Elkin is stunned upon seeing the beasts, showing he recognizes them. Raven turns to Soldrake, who lands in front of everyone along with the griffins. She opens her eyes toward the men, causing Barrio, Reed and Sir Killian to feel immense pressure. The unaffiliated knights ask who that woman is, and are informed that she is Soldrake. The revelation surprises both of them, who don't understand and ask for more details. But not even the Pendragon Knight understands. Red comments on the beauty and divinity of Soldrake. Sir Killian agrees but says, she emits a terrifying aura that scares and freezes everyone nearby. Sol continues to watch Raven and Esla. Our hero introduces her, saying she is the White Dragon of House Pendragon. The Vala's knight watches silently and stands up fearlessly, stepping in front of Soldrake, saying, as if questioning that she is the dragon who commands the griffins. Sol, as always, just watches without saying a word. The knights are stunned to see that Isla is unaffected by Soul Drake, but Raven knows they're wrong. Like him when he first saw the dragon, he too felt the pressure. And resisting it doesn't mean being simply strong. Alcan. Isla really is different, thinks our hero. And the night truly is interesting to the very end. Looking to the sky, Raven decides to go beyond the borders, to search for those who were famous in his past life, like Eden Dorian, a young entrepreneur from the Free City, whose wealth rivals that of the Empire. Juno Bellin, an incredible sorcerer and magical item creator, who built a tower in the south of Valvas. Ivan Jayadar, the young general, who united all the Northern Knights at just 20 years old. Having past life memories about these people is truly valuable to Raven, as with them he may recruit these heroes. The sound of a beak grabs everyone's attention, and Cradle says it's the Elder calling. A green crystal glows in the shaman's hand. Sir Killian asks what it is, and the orc explains it's a magic that uses minerals for communication. Carter says that because of this, it's very easy to speak with the Elder, while the knight comments that magic really is convenient. Cradle imbues the crystal with magic to hear the message, which says that there's seem to be a few dozen soldiers. Everyone is confused by the message. The one leading the soldiers wears an ogre helmet. Raven is shocked upon hearing about the helmet. Hard asks if a human could defeat an ogre and craft equipment from the monster, and Sir Killian says that if it's true, that person is extremely powerful. Isla watches silently as they talk. Our hero, on the other hand, trembles with rage, for there is only one person in the world with that helmet. Raven remembers his final day, and the one who betrayed and executed him in his past life. Baltai, he shouts in pure rage, emitting a terrifying and heavy aura. Our hero shows an expression they've never seen before, pure hatred, leaving the orcs and Sir Killian stunned. Raven asks where Balda is, and Cradle replies where the message was sent from. Our hero commands everyone to head to the orc village. An orc lies defeated on the ground, with his weapon broken among several fallen works. A man with an axe watches them, accompanied by a demonic wolf, relieved to have taken down the persistent pursuers. That warrior starts to smile, because those enemies weren't nearly as tough as the ogre he used to make his helmet. Someone holds up the paper with the announcement about the Pendragons, that they are regaining the power of the White Dragon, and are now recruiting new soldiers. Baltai continues to say that now the noble house is doing whatever it wants with the land, and even strengthening its military power, then asks if that isn't unpleasant. Smiling alongside the wolf, the commander grins at men with different ears. One of these men looks confused until Baltai shows a strange mirror, which begins to emit magic until it reveals a hooded figure. That man in the mirror begins to speak about the proud shield, spear and bow of the Empire. Smiling, he continues to say that as long as they have those items, those people whose lower bodies resemble that of horses will be the strongest cavalry in the world. The knights of House Pendragon arrive at the orc village. A group of orc children appear laughing. They grab Kratos, calling him father while pulling on his hair and cloak. Fearlessly the children approach the knights, leaving Sir Killian surprised to learn that orcs have such small and lively young. But Carter says even tiger and lion cubs are just like cats, making the knight agree, though he shows concern. A village child excitedly approaches Raven. She stops walking, surprised as she looks at our hero, who is emitting a heavy aura, while revealing a serious and resolute expression, causing the child to run away in fear. Sir Killian doesn't understand why Raven is like this, but Carter says he's been that way ever since he heard the news. Observing our hero, the knight wonders if it was just his imagination. When he remembered that moment, Lord Pendragon was emitting an aura identical to that of a dragon. Carter asks Ray to stop scaring the children. Meanwhile, Ezra watches one of the young ones walking nearby. The warrior looks at the little orc. He calmly extends his hand, but his serious aura frightens the child, who immediately runs away in fear, leaving Elkin devastated for having scared the young one. Sir Killian and Carter realize that perhaps the silent warrior likes cute thing. A voice starts speaking, saying that our hero arrived early, revealing an older orc shaman. Sir Killian asks who he is and is informed that he is Cradle's father. The elder notices Soul Drake in human form, realizes she has been discovered. The orc immediately calls all the villagers, who come out of their homes confused. They instantly kneel before Saul, after being ordered to show respect to the guardian of the forest. The Dragon Queen watches the orcs indifferently, but soon says that if she stays there, they'll never be able to talk, so she will withdraw before leaving Saul. Drake tells our hero that she understands his anger, but if he lets himself be driven by that hatred, he will end up lost. Raven does not respond to the dragon's teaching. Saul flies to the top of the tree, leaving the orcs confused. Only then does the shaman turn his attention back to our hero, who politely introduces himself to the elder. Raven is invited into the shaman's house, who recognizes him as Gordon's son. Seated at the table, the orcs talk with our hero. Our hero listens as the elder talks about the soldiers who invaded the forest. They managed to evade the shaman's protective magic, and were only noticed once they were already inside the forest. Crottle is surprised and asks if they have a mage with them, but his father says there's only a large wolf, and they're certainly being assisted by a sorcerer. That's dangerous, says the young shaman. It's also mentioned that warriors were sent, but none returned. Hard is stunned to hear that the ORC soldiers never came back, due to the great skill Ogre Helmet and Large Wolf. Raven is sure Balti is leading the special forces. Seems they went to visit the centaurs, says the elder. Hard asks why they're allying with the humans, which confuses our hero since the relationship between orcs, centaurs and pendragons is complicated. A long time ago the centaurs lived in the Akona forest. When the pendragons arrived, they allowed the orcs to live in the area. Because of their hatred for humans, the centaurs attacked the orcs, served as a protective line for the noble house. Both races love to fight and hate each other. As an outsider, our hero cannot interfere unless something truly happens. Circillian suddenly burst through the door, urgently announcing something about the centaurs, that they are attacking the village. Our hero does not understand why they're invading now, and Circillian cannot explain, as the centaurs hadn't caused problems in a long time. One of the invaders aims with a bow and shoots an arrow at Raven, who manages to catch it upon seeing a symbol on the projectile. He is surprised, sir. Killian doesn't understand why the centaurs have the imperial crest. Raven finally understands, seeing the shield with the imperial crest, that these beings have allied with Baltai. Our hero finally burst with rage. Emitting a draconic aura, Circillian is stunned by what he sees, while hearing our hero say, he's held back for too long and will annihilate them all. Raven orders all centaurs to be executed from the top of the tree. Soul Drake observes the battle. Furious Raven charges into the battlefield. Reed and Burio are surprised. Helken does not understand what is happening to his lord. 3 centaurs shoot bolts from their crossbows. Raven notices that he's their target, but without difficulty and without slowing down, he blocks all 3 bolts. Barrio and Ree are astonished by what our hero just did. Raven approaches one of the centaurs so quickly that Elkin is taken back. Our hero disarms the enemy with a single blow. The knights cheer for the feat, but the centaur was not defeated and quickly drew a sword. Raven blocks the attack and notices something strange. These monsters are not afraid. Appearing enraged, the centaur stares at our hero, declaring that they will finally destroy the forest invaders, once and for all, and that they expanded their military power solely for this moment. Raven is caught off guard by what the enemy says. In a frenzy, the centaurs continue advancing, while shouting, "Protect our forest." Harda easily wounds one of the enemies, but the monster doesn't seem to feel anything, prompting the ORC to ask what is going on. Why are the centaurs so strong now? But Cradle says they're being hypnotized. They are taking advantage of the monster's fear and anger to control them, turning them into mere war machines. Burial is struggling against one of the centaurs. After his sword is broken, Circillian seizes the moment and attacks the monster from behind. However, the centaur defends itself with its hind legs, landing a powerful kick to the knight's chest. He is immediately injured and loses his breath. Reed and Barrio rush to assist the cavalry commander, who is lying on the ground. The blow managed to shatter his armor and ribs, and the knight can't believe the strength of the attack. The centaurs begin to win the battle, and even Elkin seems to be struggling. Raven breaks the sword of one of the centaurs, who quickly retaliates by shooting a bolt from his crossbow. Our hero manages to dodge the shot. Raven calls the centaur shameless for using such a weapon. That prompts him to ask the dragon for help in taking down monsters. Soldrick says that both the centaurs and orcs are like his children, and that he cannot interfere. In this fight our hero is confused by what Saul says. Little by little the centaurs begin to win, further enraging Raven who, remembering Balti, explodes in fury. Cry of fear snaps him out of his rage. Raven notices one of the enemies attacking an orc child. The young one crying tries to flee from the spear. Our hero manages to save him just in time. The child is clearly scared. Upon realizing he was saved, he finally smiles in gratitude. Raven is surprised and becomes calmer. Our hero surveys the battlefield and realizes the centaurs are winning, and the orc village is being destroyed. This makes him wonder what Aaron would do now. Raven mounts his horse and draws the enemy's attention by insulting them. The centaurs turn to our hero, who provokes them by attacking their honor, saying they use human weapons, those they so despise, and attack children. Raven continues to insult them, saying he alone is enough to take down an inferior tribe that can't even defeat the enemy chief. He even attacks one of the already defeated enemy soldiers. To enrage the centaurs, the plan works and the monsters become furious. Our hero begins to flee, forcing his enemies to pursue him. Kratos understands what Raiden did to lure the centaurs away from the village, but Kratos says it's impossible for him to defeat so many opponents at once. Elkin is surprised to see the tactic used. Soul Drake calmly watches what his contractor is doing. Saul raises one hand, summoning one of the griffins, leaving everyone confused at the creature's arrival. He lands in front of Elkin, staring at him. Isla asks the dragon if she was the one who commanded the griffin, but she gives no response. The allied monster calls the knight's attention. By chirping and growling, Elkin understands what he must do. A horse runs through the forest while the centaurs slowly close in. Raven halts his escape and turns to face the monsters. In front of him are the centaurs, and on all sides there are cliffs. Our hero is cornered. The monster's leader mocks our hero for using himself as bait to save the orc, saying that once he's defeated, the village will be destroyed. Calling him a fool, but Raven remains unfazed and confidently says he's enough to handle all of them. Even so, he knows the enemies are under a fortification spell and doubts he can handle so many alone. Smiling, the centaur leader begins his attack, saying he'll wipe that insolent grin off Raiden's face. In danger, Raven braces himself for a dangerous battle, but bolts flying from behind surprise him. 3 centaurs are struck in the chest. Our hero turns to see who did it. A griffin flies in the sky carrying a warrior. Elkin has arrived just in time, mounted on the winged beast. Seeing the knight leaves our hero stunned. Reloading her crossbow with a bolt, Isla begins to say she told him she would be Raven's sword to destroy all your enemies. Elkin adds, aiming his weapon at the foes. The centaurs look at the knight and the winged creature. One of them realizes it's a griffin from the forest guardian. The monster lets out a loud screech at the enemies while flying over the centaurs, even knowing whose creature it is. Rage makes one of the enemies fire his weapon. Elkin dodges the fired bolt, displaying great mastery with the weapon. The knight holds several bolts to reload the crossbow quickly. One by one, Isla takes them down with precise shots, while using the griffin's speed to evade enemy bolts. Raven watches, knowing that this is a griffin knight. These creatures are divine beasts that serve the dragons. Even though they are large, they seem to dance through the skies, and due to their strength, they are used for hunting and war, making them difficult to deal with. Using knowledge from ancient times and after long and arduous training, the first griffin that could be mounted appeared. After hundreds of battles with his chosen knight, the result is the griffin knight. Our hero watches a centaur fall in defeat. Then he looks at his knight still fighting, who in his former life was called Stormbringer, the one who brings storms. Elkin proves to truly be an elite warrior. Raven agrees that this was the perfect nickname for Isla. Another centaur is taken down by an arrow, prompting the monster leader to command the retreat of the remaining forces. Survivors begin fleeing into the forest. Elkin notices they are escaping into a denser area, and if they make it, the griffin won't be able to pursue them, giving them a chance to regroup. An arrow hits the hind leg of the centaur leader. He immediately falls to the ground. Raven approaches on horseback with a crossbow in hand, revealing he disabled the fleeing enemy. Our hero praises the weapon used by the Empire, and tells the centaur chief that those weapons are worth far more than those half-horse monsters. Even injured, the enemy leader tries to get up. Raven points the crossbow at the fallen opponent, saying that even if the pain fades, he will never walk again with a shattered leg. The relic shield is in our hero's saddle, which he grabs and channels its power toward the centaur leader. The monster doesn't understand what's happening, but is stunned to see his wounds healing. Even the hypnotic effect is removed, now calmer though still confused. The centaur leader looks at our hero and asks why he helped him. Raven says he merely restored him to normal and that if he hadn't, he would have eliminated him on the spot. Our hero asks the centaur leader where the man who provided those weapons is, which bear the imperial crest. Our hero tells the centaur the man's name Baltai, commander of the demonic special forces. Surprised, the monster asks how he knows that name. Pointing the crossbow, Raven intimidates the enemy, saying he's the one asking the questions, and wants to know what happened between the centaurs and Baltai. After a moment of thought, the enemy reveals that the man invaded the forest and made an offer, saying the Pendragons are growing stronger. After regaining the power of the dragon, Baltai claimed it was obvious they were planning to attack the centaurs, and before that could happen, he would lend them weapons. The centaur explains that the plan was to attack the orcs and reclaim the Kona forest. The Raven asks if they were seduced by that offer, based on unfounded accusations, and he says it might have been Balti's magic that from the mirror, a hooded man appeared, and at that moment they all went into a frenzy. After that, the centaur remembers nothing. Raven reflects on the information slowly. Our hero approaches the defeated enemies, surprising Elkin, who doesn't understand what his lord intends to do. Raven pensively observes the centaurs on the ground. Our hero uses the power of the shield on the enemies, surprising them as they realize their wounds are healed. The centaur leader is confused to see his enemy healing the centaurs, who exhausted can only heal them to a certain extent. Elkin asks what Raven is doing, and is told that the blame lies with the enemies who used the centaurs. Those who created all this hatred were the Pendragons, and for that they are also responsible. Hearing such words shocks the centaur leader, but our hero cannot save those who are gone. Yet as warriors they feel no regret falling in battle. Says the centaur chief. Raven merely watches without commenting. The former enemy says he is different from his ancestors, but his answer that only time will tell. Our hero is praised for being a wise sovereign, for what he said earlier about the Pendragons being responsible, and because of that, the centaurs will henceforth form an alliance with the noble house, for revenge against those responsible for forcing them to act that way. The leader swears he will do everything to help the Pendragons, and asks if his subordinates agree, though many remain silent, but they accept the elder's will. Raven finds this interesting, and says he will count on the centaurs to protect the forest. As the mightiest cavalry, our hero shakes hands with the monster chief, saying that from now on they are allies. After the conflict ends, peace returns to the forest. The soldiers are healed by the water spirits, and a banquet is held in the name of peace. Orcs and knights eat and drink cheerfully, while Sir Killian is once again challenged by Carta. Alkin is alone, looking out the window at the sky until someone says hello. 2 orc children approached. One of them says Eslo was really cool for riding the griffin. The 2 youngsters throw themselves excitedly at the knight. Helkin seems happy about it as he pats one of the children's heads. Raven meets with the elder of the orcs and centaur is alongside Crottle. The shaman leader is pensive about the magic coming from the mirror. Our hero asks if something like that is even possible, but the orc has no such knowledge. Cradle says it's a very powerful and complex magic, mind control and enhancement. It has reached the point of manipulating emotions and controlling several sentinels at once. Raven becomes thoughtful, knowing that whoever did that must be a powerful mage. The celebration continues, but our hero isolates himself on one of the branches of the enormous tree. Soul Drake asks why the sour face, but Rave asks if she lent the griffin to Elkin. However, Saul says the griffin sensed the aura of a griffin knight coming from him. Our hero accepts the answer, saying maybe he had ridden a griffin before, but the knight doesn't want to talk about it. Soldrick says humans are far too complex creatures. Saul tells our hero that he wasn't consumed by the aura of the furious dragon. Curious, he asks, what is that aura, that power that appeared out of nowhere? Saul replies, that the contract allows a person to possess the power of a dragon. Control depends on who wields it. Raven says that if he had let the rage control him, he wouldn't have seen the truth. However, there are still things our hero doesn't understand. That rage for a moment made him forget. But in his past life, he would already have been part of the special forces who now backlash, are fighting in the south, in the Sea of Trees against the Troll King, the most brutal creature in existence. Half of the special forces were wiped out in that horrific battle. But Balte was present during that fight. That's why the true fact of him being in contact with the centaurs is very strange. This makes our hero question what really happened with those events, and more importantly what happened to his original self. Raven Vault, just like what Balda said on that fateful day. Everything is connected: the fall of the Pendragons, the extermination of House Vault, and those who wish to destroy the Pendragons. Vart says he wants to try returning to his hometown, a place where a noble house lost its honor. A land of humiliation. Let's go to Sisok. Our hero says to Soul Drake, a ruined place where a burned flag bears a crest and a raven. Before two crossed swords, a young man and woman are eating, seated at a table facing several people prostrated on the ground. Lady Luna and her father are tense and fearful, wondering why those people suddenly came to the territory of the steroid, the son and daughter of the Emperor Ian. The Imperial Prince, a stern and unimpressed man. Ingrid, the Imperial Princess, a quiet young woman sipping her tea. Silence dominates the room, leaving everyone kneeling on the floor tense. Ian gazes down contemptuously at everyone and kicks the table away, startling Lady Luna and her father. Annoyed, the Imperial Prince calls the food trash. Everyone begs the prince for forgiveness. Ingrid asks her brother to stop saying he's ruining her mood. The princess says they didn't even need to finish eating, but Ian says he was just waiting for her to be done, and asks if that doesn't make him a good older brother. Ingrid says that doing this won't make her happy. This conversation leaves the Sarad stunned. The prince says he's only there in the countryside because of the Pendragons, and Aaron surprising Lady Luna and her father. Ian continues saying it's strange that someone as weak as Aaron was able to make a pact with the White Dragon after awakening because of this. The prince asks the Sarads if they know what happened. The Duke quickly questions his daughter about Aaron. Since she was with him, she answers that she has known him for a long time. He became a completely different person. He became bold yet calm and stronger, says Lady Luna in a love-struck tone. Ian gets face-to-face with Lady Luna, and realizes Aaron has become a better man. However, he intimidates her by asking if the Duke has become better than him. Lady Sarah is terrified and unable to answer. Because she gives no answer, the prince starts laughing, summoning an aura shaped like a lion, as his laughter turns manic. Duke Sarad is confused about what that aura is. The aura of a conqueror, the Duke concludes. But the prince asks whether the white worm belittling Aaron has been seducing the ladies. Ian tells his sister that he's appalled. The prince then tells Lady Luna to follow him, surprising her that's an order. Ian finishes as he pulls the young lady's chin arrogantly. Ian asks if Aaron crossed the line. Frightened Lady Luna cannot disagree. After all, he is the Imperial Prince, who is also known as Ion Aragon, the tyrant. Raven hears that the prince and princess are coming to visit him, clearly irritated by the news. Melvin informs him it's Ion and Ingrid, leaving our hero confused about what they're thinking, calling them bastards, which shocks the butler. Hearing how his lord referred to the imperial heirs, he reveals that Princess Ingrid was once Duke Pendragon's fiancée, and that Ian cancelled the engagement. Our hero is surprised to learn there was another bride before the Seards. And even Melvin is puzzled by his lack of knowledge, even surprised. Raven seems to recall Aaron's comment about the royal princess. This gives our hero a headache. As the situation grows more complicated, new knights joined a month after the incident with the centaurs. Isla began organizing the Griffin Knights, increasing the duchy's military strength. Raven managed to control the dragon aura to a certain extent. The Pendragons usually get time off every summer, which gave our hero an excuse to visit the village near Chisholm. The destruction of House Vault and the search for related conspirators continue. Raven asks if the visit is about the marriage. Melbourne says he doesn't know, but warns him to be cautious, which makes our hero curious, because the prince has been named the next emperor, and is known as a tyrant, and that it wouldn't be wise to test his temper. A raven asks why the second prince was chosen. Melbourne says, "It's due to the first prince's worsening health condition." This makes our hero thoughtful, until he remembers it wasn't supposed to be Ian. In his past life, the name of the next emperor was Goofly. Melbourne is surprised by the name Raven just said. Raven asks if the first prince's name is Goofly, but the butler says his name is Shane Aragon, and he's never heard of the name mentioned by the Duke, leaving our hero confused about who this Goofly really is. He begins to wonder, seeing that the current future is different from the one in his past life, and are probably connected. From Raiden's fingertip a white flame emerges. It transforms into a fire dragon, stunning Melbourne. Our hero says he now has a reason to meet with Prince Ian. Herald announces the arrival of the royal family. We're being transported by carriage, making people bow along the way. Ian releases his aura in front of Castle Pendragon, forcing everyone to bow. People are frightened by the pressure, unable to lift their heads. After all, Ian is royalty. Ian Aragon, the tyrant, is surprised seeing Raven walking calmly, unaffected by the pressure, which piques the prince's curiosity. Our hero stops in front of Ian, looking at him with indifference, prompting Aragon to ask if Raiden's head isn't a bit too high, to which he replies that Ion is not the emperor yet. Arrogantly, Ion declares that he will become emperor. Our hero simply shows indifference, and replies that he will not be the next emperor. Catching Ion by surprise, our hero reveals the dragon aura, saying, "What a shame, isn't it? Second prince and Aragon." Ian is stunned that even with the blood of the first emperor, and the aura of a conqueror, the prince is still being overpowered by our hero in an aura clash. Ian wonders if that's the aura of the white dragon. Enraged, the prince demands how Raven dares, but stops when he sees his sister stepping out of the carriage. Ingrid and Lady Luna watch the spectacle the prince is putting on. Ian begins to sweat and tries to speak with the princess, angrily tells him to stop causing trouble. Our hero now understands that she is the royal princess, but becomes curious about why Lunatic Rod is also present. Ingrid formally introduces herself to Raven with a courteous bow, which he politely returns. The princess comments that they were engaged before birth, which is why they never met until now. But our hero remains indifferent, making the princess chuckle a bit, agreeing sweetly with Lady Luna's words about him being very strong and handsome. Our hero is caught off guard by what she says and how she says it. Ingrid takes Raven's hand and asks him to accompany her on a tour of the castle, while Ian clearly tries to stop her. Lady Luna is speechless at the mood swings of the imperial siblings. Our hero leads the guests, while sensing the prince's hatred, and realizing things have gotten complicated again. Raven's mother and sisters appear, calling out to him. Lady Elaine says, "It's been quite a while, Prince Ion and Princess Ingrid." Erin smiles gently as she greets the imperial siblings, suddenly gaining the prince's attention, who gallantly asks for her name, while Ingrid and Lady Elaine converse. Upon hearing her name, Ion begins praising it and introduces himself as a peerless, great warrior, and the second imperial prince. Erin lights up upon seeing her brother, and pays no attention to the prince's words, excitedly flattering Raven, saying he looks even more radiant today. Ion is shocked that even as a prince, he is being ignored immediately. He becomes irritated, releasing his aura and startling Mia. Frightened, she runs away, leaving the prince surprised. With tears in her eyes, the little Pendragon hides behind Elkin, who simply watches everything indifferently. Now serious, Ian asks the knight's name. Isla says she's under no obligation to tell her name, enraging the prince for being disrespected by a mere knight, and he demands Elkin answer him. But Erin quickly says that he is a knight of Valvas. Upon hearing where Elkin is from, Erin calms down, understanding they are eccentric people. He says he wants a duel to prove which noble house is superior, but Isla says it's impossible. Once again, this enrages the arrogant prince. However, already annoyed, Ingrid starts scolding her brother for the second time, saying that if he causes trouble again, he won't be able to open his mouth for a year. Everyone is surprised by what's happening. One of the knights remarks, surprised that ever since arriving at the castle, the tyrant no one could oppose is being controlled. All the soldiers agree that the Pendragons are incredible. Ian calls our hero a white worm, saying he wants to have a private conversation, because he has something important to say. But Raven doesn't respond, prompting the prince to ask if he's afraid. Our hero says he was just surprised to hear that nickname, and that he also wants to talk, calling him the Eternal Prince. In a room, both Raven and Ian are seated at a table. "You changed a lot," says the prince, provoking our hero, reminding him of his fragile past, and that it was he who cancelled his sister's engagement. That the last time he saw our hero, he was nothing more than someone pale, weak and fragile, and that's why he chose to cancel the marriage with Ingrid. Raven doesn't care about that decision, and asks why he came to visit if it's about marriage again. Ian becomes irritated, and says he will never give his sister to our hero. He then says he hasn't felt even a drop of loyalty, not even that of a knight toward the Empire, and asks what that means. Raven says, the Pendragons won't remain in anyone's shadow, and will do whatever they wish, and that's all. But Ion suddenly attacks our hero, who simply throws his drink in the prince's direction, splashing the white liquid into his eyes. Raven swiftly lands an elbow strike to Ion's face, smiles even injured, and grabs our hero's arm, throwing him against the table. After breaking his balance, Raven crashes face first into the furniture, but quickly grabs the prince's wrist, catching him off guard with the maneuver, putting him in a leg lock that traps his arm. Ion, furious, tries to break free from the hold. Raven stares at the prince, enraged by the surprise attack. Our hero notices a knife near his opponent's hand, and realizes the danger because of that. He immediately lets go and steps back. Ion asks why Raiden let him go when he was winning. Our hero replies that he sensed the prince didn't truly want to go all the way. He adds that if Ion had grabbed the knife and attacked, he would have broken free as well. Now angry, he asks why Ian is even there. Both nobles confront each other with hostile stares, but the prince starts laughing, breaking the tension in the air, and continuing to laugh like a megalomaniac, saying that Raven managed to corner him, and that he has earned his interest. Ion arrogantly extends his hand and declares that he wants an alliance, and will make our hero the center of the empire. After the duel, Ion, with persuasive urgency, invites our hero to join forces, saying he needs military and strategic support. Eren realizes the situation has drastically changed. Our hero notices the tyrant's aura is gone, and asks what the prince means by joining forces. Ian steps down from the table, and begins to explain that members of the imperial family are fighting for the right of succession. Prince reveals that it's not just the other heirs, but also nobles supporting each of them from the shadows. Ian says that because of this, he would like to have House Pendragon by his side, promising rewards to Raven in the form of gold, silver, or the creation of an independent state. Our hero begins to speak, but then stops and starts thinking that if Ian becomes emperor, there might be some benefit. But becoming serious again, he returns to observing the prince, who is known throughout the capital as the tyrant. Even so, it seems his true nature is not tyrannical. Finding it strange that someone seen as a tyrant wants to be emperor, our hero asks if Ian doesn't actually want to be emperor. Raven surprises the prince by asking what he's really thinking, and if the so-called tyrant image is just a facade, and says he doesn't care about the rewards, but that he won't ally himself with someone he doesn't trust. Stunned, Ion continues to stare at our hero. Ion says Raven is the first person aside from his own sister to understand his intentions. All of this leaves the prince deep in thought. He reveals that he wants his brother Cheyenne to become emperor. Raven asks if it's the first prince who is bedridden due to poor health. Ian looks devastated, but quickly grows angry and replies that our hero is mistaken, revealing that Shane was nearly executed 3 years ago during a rebellion that occurred in Sistar. Raven is shocked to hear the full truth about the imperial family, and that incident. Ian explains that his brother was a good, kind man who would have been a splendid emperor, with plans to change the country. The revelation leaves our hero stunned, remembering that it was 3 years ago in Sistar when his house was destroyed because of a revolt. Now more serious, Raven says he will accept the offer, surprising the imperial prince. But in return, Ian will have to tell him everything he knows about the rebellion in Sistak. Meanwhile, Lady Luna and Ingrid are surprised to learn that our hero married Lindsay. After the conversation, Ian places his goblet on the table, finishing his account of everything he knows to Raven, who remains silent, processing the knowledge he gained, just staring at his serious reflection in the drink, remembering that back then, he wanted to be a knight, and had received a letter from the Lord of Sistar. It now seems there was a hidden reason behind it, part of something greater. Ian says they don't know who the instigators of the rebellion were. Raven asks if the culprit might not be one of the princes. Ion says, there are many heirs and just as many nobles supporting each one, making it impossible for the second prince to identify the rebellion's mastermind. Our hero asks about an heir named Goofly. Ion remembers who that person is. He explains that he is the son of a concubine, noble in title only and without power, but is surprised Raven knows his name. Raven can't understand how that person could be only noble in name, and wonders how in a few years he would become emperor. Our hero asks about the story of Goofy's mother. Ian says she was Baroness Erland from the port city of Lu, and that the emperor had said where she was born. At that moment the prince realizes something important, revealing that the Baroness was born in Sistar. Furious, Ian asks what that brat could possibly do, claiming that even if Shine were eliminated, he would never enter the line of succession. Raven says there is no such thing as never, leaving the prince confused. Finally, our hero connects all the clues he already knew. His draconic aura bursts out in pure rage. The prince is frightened by the intensity of the aura, realizing that up until now, he had never seen the full strength of our hero. Ian is confused by what Raven said about already knowing, and wonders what exactly he knows, questioning who our hero really is. Soul Drake appears at one of the towers in her dragon form. Ian watches in astonishment as the great white dragon reveals herself. Soul observes the situation and with a brilliant white glow, reveals her human form as she enters through the window, stopping in front of Raven, who asks what happened. Soul says she felt the aura of a powerful dragon, and asks if our hero is alright. Soul Drake enters the room with the help of her contractor. Ian is amazed by the woman's beauty, and wonders if she really is the terrifying dragon. The prince becomes certain that the Pendragons are the contractors of the white dragon, and smiles, saying that now he understands, leaving Raven surprised. You're a special guy and you're someone I acknowledge. I'll trust your intuition, says Ian. Our hero smiles upon hearing that. Saul asks if something happened, and laughing Raven says a lot has happened. Ian is invited to travel to the Pendragon summer village. The prince doesn't understand why they need to travel. Raven says they're going to the outskirts of Sisek near a beach called Silverson. Our hero says they will use the place to lure the enemies. In 3 carriages head toward a coastal region. Port City Luce, the largest commercial city in the empire. People inside the Luce Chamber of Commerce ask if others have heard. They talk about the arrival of the Pendragon and the tyrant prince at Sibylle Coast, and wonder why, saying the situation is bad. One of the men says that Governor Segunda is the highest local authority, and has issues with the Pendragons. He goes on to say, the governor and Duchess Aline is interrupted by another man, who fears being punished for the subject. The third man says, the place seems quite lively since the absolute ruler of the sea, Aranjus, the dragon king of the sea, is docked at the port. The conversation grows tense at the mention of that name, and that Aranjus is able to rival the empire, due to the power of Viscula, the sea's guardian dragon. Everyone hopes there won't be a problem, because of the presence of the Arangus, the Pendragons and the tyrant prince. A man says there's no need to worry. The men are surprised by the speaker called Ron, who is the president of the Chamber of Commerce, who is confident that when wealth comes together, the only outcome is prosperity. On the sands of the beautiful beach, someone lies beneath a sunshade. A woman asks our hero a question. What does he think of her bikini? Saying it was made by a famous artisan and is custom fitted. Raven feels uncomfortable as Ingrid waits for a response. With a smile on her face, Erin calls her brother, saying Lindsay is finally ready, which Shirley says, it's been a long time since she last visited the beach. The young Pendragon also invites Lady Luna to join the fun, who is also a bit embarrassed. Ingrid complains that they're unnecessary. Raven complains that they're there to investigate, and doesn't know how things ended up like this, and that it's all the fault of that idiot Ion, who is trying to impress the girls on the beach. Arrogantly, he asks if they'd rather ditch our hero and come talk to him, since he's a prince after being invited. He asks if Raven is stupid for going with just the 3 of them, and says they need to bring the girls too. The atmosphere becomes tense with the imperial hair's arrogance. Ingrid gets angry. Lindsay is embarrassed by Ion's outfit, and Luna doesn't know what to say without being rude. Erin, on the other hand, starts laughing at the prince's clothes, saying they're funny and cute, leaving the hare confused as to why. She's laughing at his incredible body. Sculpted by martial art, Aaron asks where Raven is going, and he replies that he's going fishing. Our hero reveals his muscles as he takes off his shirt, surprising the girls and making them blush at the sight, leaving Ian outraged, wondering why they didn't react the same way, even though he had shown much more, only to be called an idiot by Raven. Our hero notices something falling from the sky, which upon hitting the water, creates a giant wave that drags everyone on the beach. Saul appears above the water saying she brought a fish, which is actually a huge whale. Raven understands that to dragons, whales are just fish. Our hero wonders what his enemies are up to, allowing Sir Killian Carta and Elkin to walk through the city. The Pendragon Knight asks how this turned into a vacation, and why the prince is with them, but the orc smiles and asks, who cares about that? And exclaims about the city that has armored warriors. Warriors from all over and even more warriors to face. Drooling, he says it's paradise and that he wants to fight them all. Sir Killian recalls that the orcs left the forest just to find more opponents to fight, and didn't expect them to head to the port. The warriors are surprised as they look in a direction, revealing a strange group approaching with a monster. Blue-skinned humans, accompanied by a harpy and a black griffin with a metal collar. Carter is confused upon seeing other orcs. Sir Killian says they are Latron orcs, leaving Carta puzzled about them. The knight explains that they come from the south, in the Death Archipelago, and are the most brutal orcs who make a living as pirates. The leader of the Latron orcs laughs for making humans tremble in fear, while another orc mocks them, calling them inferior. The group is surprised to see Carta saying there's an orc there, which isn't something you see every day. Mocking, they say, he doesn't look strong, since he's making way and is friends with weak humans. That makes Carta explode with rage from the humiliation, calling them out for a fight and saying he'll wipe them all out. Sir Killian tries to stop him, saying he's now a member of the Pendragons, leaving him without a response. The orcs continue mocking Carta about his pride, saying he belongs to the weakest race on Earth. The group of monsters walks away laughing, while Sir Killian has to hold Carta back, to stop him from doing something reckless. The knight is surprised to see that Elkin's sword was ready to be drawn. Isla and Carter are furious after being insulted by pirates. Sir Killian laments having to babysit two troublemakers, when all he wanted was a beach vacation. However, the knight finds it strange that pirates are walking so brazenly in a port city, indicating that something is happening in the city. Governor Secunda looks out the window, mentioning that Aaron and Ian are on vacation nearby. He asks what Vincent, a man sitting at a desk, thinks about the matter. Vincent says they are not only near the city, but also close to Sistik and the Sibylle Cliff. Secunda asks if there's a chance the nobles have noticed something about the Sistik incident. Vincent replies that if they investigate the connection between Baroness Erlin and Goofy, they will certainly find out, finding it strange that the Pendragons are involved in the matter. Governor Secunda agrees that the incident is not directly tied to the Pendragons, but doesn't deny he owes a great debt to the noble house. Vincent says nothing, while listening to the governor call it an unpleasant situation, and mention a cat and a snake. He decides to leave everything in the hands of the one who controls the pirates and the schemes behind the scenes. The King of Darkness, the first day of vacation for the Pendragons, while surrounded by the beautiful scenery of the Sibyl Coast, and accompanied by a feast of whale meat, comes to an end, with everyone enjoying the day among friends and comrades. At night in the port city, our hero observes the scenery while seated on the balcony. Someone pours a glass and asks if Raiden is enjoying the view. Ion decides to join the moment. Our hero comments that the prince's mood is always terrible. Ion replies angrily that of course he's in a bad mood. Even though he invited the girls to the beach, he ended up being ignored. Raven says the prince just keeps causing unnecessary problems. Ian complains that our hero always seems disinterested and questions him, only to hear that Raven is already married. Even so, the imperial heir comments disheartened, "You don't seem to care much about your concubine either." This makes the prince think of Pendragon and the dragon, which surprises him. Ian explains that when the dragon took human form in the castle, and they were talking, our hero's expression was different. Raven looks at him as if he's looking at an idiot. The memories of the conversation in the forest give him a sad expression. He replies that it's nothing like the prince thinks. Raven looks at his reflection in the drink. She's just special, our hero says. While drinking, Ion says Saul has incomparable beauty, but still prefers humans. Only for Raven to say he doesn't care about his preferences. Our hero says, the main reason for the vacation is to investigate the attack on her. Cyan, the second prince, adds that Goofly, his mother Baroness Erlin, and Governor Secunda are all connected. Raven comments that if the governor was behind the attack, he should have started moving the moment he heard Ian was near Sisek. Our hero begins to give an example, but the prince finishes the sentence by saying, the plan was to execute him, calling them shameless people for targeting an imperial heir. Raven comments that Ian isn't the type to let that happen, and Ion says he's already prepared to stir up trouble. Our hero says now is not the right time. They need to wait for the fish to bite the bait. Ion continues drinking but notes that with so little information, Raven already understood the enemy's intentions. The prince remembers the feeling when he saw the draconic aura emanating from our hero. It makes him wonder if that was just instinct, or if something deeper is hidden, just like what Duke Pendragon sees in this mystery. In the underworld of Luce, a place where pirates and mercenaries gathered to meet and have fun, the Orca Archipelago bar is guarded by two armed orcs. Chatting cheerfully, a mercenary tells his companion he's surprised to see a human enter, a place used by orc pirates to gather. Both think that maybe that human will end up as food. A man dressed as a pirate drinks from a large wooden mug, and upon finishing looks emotionlessly at his companions at the table. One of them compliments him, saying he drinks like a real man. A pirate the size of an orc who is sleeping speaks to the tiny human while holding a sword in his hand. The orc continues to sleep. He is the same orc who mocked Carter. Let's get straight to the point. What does the governor want? Asks the pirate armed with a saber. Vincent says that Segunda wants to work with the snake and the cat. This makes the pirate laugh, realizing the governor is bold for wanting to execute the imperial prince, and says you can't judge someone by their appearance. He comments on the incident that happened 3 years ago in Sisek. Vincent responds that the governor doesn't like people meddling in his business, especially scum from the underworld. The pirate grows thoughtful as he watches the human go back to drinking. Smiling, he comments that Vincent is bold, someone able to act like that in front of him. Aside from the Latchman works in an animated tone, he says he really likes that. Strong people are amazing, whether monsters or humans. The pirate exclaims. Vincent hands over a paper, saying the mission details are written there. He informs that in 3 days, that person will invite the cat and the snake to his house, and since the cat loves attention, just give him a little push and they'll be able to catch him. Smiling, the pirate says he's going to have a lot of fun with the little tyrant. From the capital, Vincent unemotionally watches the mission paper being crumpled as the outlaw calls the prince a little cat. Curious, he asks the pirate if he can ask a question, which the pirate allows with a grunt. Are you human? Asks the governor's aide. That catches the pirate off guard as he repeats the question to himself, surprised by what he sees. Vincent quickly jumps back. A red aura surrounds the pirate, who finally stands up and appears twice the size of a human. For the first time, the governor's aide feels fear, sensing an aura so overwhelming it robs him of breath. Threateningly, the pirate asks Vincent, "What do you think?" He brings his hand close to the aide, who backs against the wall, tense from the situation, trying to defend himself. The man grabs the wrist of the being who now resembles a white orc, but he is thrown through the air with ease, stunned by the pirate's strength. Seeing him land head first and suffer serious injury, Vincent panics. He manages to save himself by deciding to drop to his knees and using his hands to soften the impact. Appearing behind the human, the pirate slaps his back, while congratulating him for not falling flat, and praises him, saying, "You're better than I thought." But only for a human, he adds coldly, staring into Vincent's eyes and intimidating him. Excited, the pirate calls for Pack, the monster who was sleeping, asking if he wants to eat orc meat. This instantly wakes the lathe and orc, who gets excited at the mention of food. The bandit says, it's meat aged in the forest for decades and must be delicious. Pat gets pumped and says he saw one in the city and got curious. Wiping drool from his face, he asks, since the orc is his, what will the other one get? The pirate says he'll eat cat and snake, then orders the annihilation of all the men, while unleashing his murderous aura. revealing his psychopathic side. That human-like monster laughs maniacally and says they can do whatever they want with the women, and since now realizes for certain that thing isn't human. The second son of one of the Empire's 5 great duchies, Oranges Sea Dragon King. The Black King of Luz named Tolio Oranges, and without a doubt a maniac. Our video ends here. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, bye bye.